Hello and welcome to the Secret Teachings, Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm starting just a minute early here so I can acknowledge everybody in the chat and also let you know that I made a small mistake on StreamYard with putting the time at AM instead of PM. For some reason, when you click on or outside of the preparation area on StreamYard, it resets the settings, at least on my StreamYard. So it went back to AM after I set it to PM. I apologize for that, but I appreciate you being here tonight. We'll go through the chat really quick, and then we'll get started with the show, with the intro and all of that as normal. Brundle is here, and I believe that most of you were here early this morning, your time. It's early morning where I am, just waking up, getting ready for the show, and I feel bad about that AM PM change. I apologize for that. Tim Curley is here. Hello, Tim Curley. I see Deborah is in the chat as well. I also see that we have Patriot Girl here. I see also in the chat room, maybe this is a new listener, 8F01 with their little cat emoji. Yes, I did set it for AM accidentally instead of PM. I just mentioned that, yes. Who else do we have in the chat tonight? We have Echo is here. Hello, Echo, in the chat room. I'll scroll back down through this because we have limited time. Leonard is here. Hello, Leonard. Hermit Ventures is here. Mr. Thunder is here. Hello, Mr. Thunder, or Rod Thunder. I also see Combat Medic in the chat. Joe Ryder is here. Amber Geddon, hello. Howdy, welcome to the show. By the way, Amber Geddon, and for those of you who enjoy the Secret Space Program types of shows, Billy Carson is threatening to sue me because I have copies of his public court records. So we'll probably get into that next week. That's a fun little thing. We might actually, I think I'm going to put the whole Billy Carson show that I did a couple of months ago, the 4-hour special, back up in the archive. It's just too good. And Billy Carson is threatening me with a lawsuit because I have access to the Florida Department of Business. That's all public record. What a scumbag he is. All right, we also have in the chat room, Noka is here. Hello, Noka. And I also see Dr. Jesse is here. Hello, Dr. Jesse. Jackie is here. Hello, Jackie. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Secret Teachings. And we have more listeners coming, and I can't go through everybody. I see Agorist Alex is here. Hello, Agorist. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. Edward Preston is also here. Hello, Edward Preston. And I see a few other people trickling in. Jello Putin. And hey, Chrissy is here. Hello, Chrissy. Yeah, I saw your messages on X as well. I responded back to them, and then I guess you sent some. I sent some back, and then you sent some more, and I haven't seen them. No, X has not given me notifications. I'll check that after the show. I apologize for that, too. Lane is here. Hello, Lane. Scotty is here. Cedar is here. And so on and so forth. So let's get started with the show. tstradio.info. As you know, the links are all below. This is our Friday special video show. We'll get started here in just 1 minute. Let me put up the Ceasefire, Lego Propaganda My Ego show promotion up. We'll hit the audio to start the show, and away we go.
Hello? Anybody home?
Today, I want you to open your mind.
I've almost come to the conclusion that the story is so damning that the mass of people can't deal with it.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques to get people actually to love their servitude.
We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
To change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time.
If you can get people to consent to the state of affairs in which they are living, then you have a much more easily controllable society than you would if you were relying wholly on clubs and firing squads and concentration camps.
Tools of conquest do not necessarily come with bombs and explosions and fallout. There are weapons that are simply thoughts, attitudes, prejudices.
As you connect the dots between different people, organizations, religions, history, suddenly the picture starts to form.
The kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men.
Someone born in the United States is not more special than someone born in Mexico. They're just vehicles for the consciousness to experience.
They do not want your children to be educated. They do not want you to think too much.
It was learned that the aliens had been and were then manipulating masses of people through secret societies, witchcraft, magic, the occult, and religion.
They reach into our children. Music, television, books.
Prey on children's innocence.
How can I disprove lies that are stamped with an official seal?
So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it feels like an altar to an alien god.
Genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen, but you wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc is now in the possession of the Army.
Too many others know what's happening out there, and no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete. A case to be filed under M for Mankind in the Twilight Zone.
About time some of you got acquainted with the real hard truth.
If you don't connect the dots, it's just a mass of what's all this about.
You are listening to the Secret Teachings Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Gable. If you'd like to reach out to the show tonight, rdgable@yahoo.com is the email, tstradio.info is the website. The links are all below, however you're listening to this show, whether it's in the free archive, whether it's on YouTube for the special Friday video presentation, or X or Facebook as well. If you're on groundzeroplus.com, welcome to the show. You will not find the links below. You'll have to go to the show page there or to our independent website. You can sign up to the ad-free version of the show. If you hear ads throughout the show, please consider subscribing. You get rid of those ads. You support independent radio, independent content. 16 years in the making and into the distant foreseeable future. Tonight's show is called Ceasefire, Lego Propaganda, My Ego. I put this show title together on Monday this week, so on second thought, I almost changed it, considering that we had a lot of updates after I put this show title together. It might kind of imply something that the show might not sound like tonight. It might sound like a show simply about ceasefire agreements and Lego propaganda videos from Iran, which, sure, it is, but it's also about a lot more than that. In fact, since I put the show title together, since we did the Ceasefire promo picture on Monday or Tuesday, maybe it was Tuesday morning, there's been another ceasefire that's been broken. So it's pretty incredible. These things they just come and go. There was a ceasefire with Iran, and it included Lebanon, and then it didn't, and then it did, but then it didn't, and then there was another ceasefire. There's one supposedly today. And then within like minutes of me waking up, I get a notification, and people are sending me Jerusalem Post, Israeli newspapers. The IDF refuses to stop bombing Lebanon. And the president says, hey, but you better stop that. Enough's enough. And the Israelis just don't stop it. Now, I want to make something very clear. This show is about the secret teachings. It's about the occult. And sometimes that means that we look at language and how language is used. And traditionally, historically, something like psychology, our modern conception of psychology, or psychiatry, the study of the brain and how people think and function, sociology, things like that, all of that was magic. In the same way that we look at chemistry today, but chemistry as a normal part of life, it makes up household products and foods, and you make meth too. I've been watching Breaking Bad, so I've been thinking about chemistry. But chemistry in the old world was really magic. And I mean, I don't fully understand chemistry, so it's still magic to me. It's like any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So the secret teachings are always incorporated into what we do. And if we're talking about, well, I don't know, maybe the president's AI generated image, as listeners are already pointing out in the chat room, in a white robe with a red sash, that maybe that's not really Jesus. Maybe that's the magician of the tarot deck, at least the Rider-Waite tarot deck. And that is exactly what it is. So I just don't want you to be confused when you hear this show. Maybe for the first time, we have a lot of new listeners tonight, and we have probably quadrupled our audience in the last couple of months. When you hear me talking about perceptually political things, even the word political or politics, many ticks, many bloodsuckers, Twilight language, I just want it to be very clear that this is not a political show. But it is important to understand the nuances, the context. It's important to understand the etymology, the theology, the belief systems behind what drives political decisions. Obviously, the war in Iran is not about really war per se. It's about holy days to the Israelis. It's about holy days to the Jews and to the Muslims and to the Christians. Much of what we've seen happen with the, quote, war in Iran has been focused on Jesus, or it's been focused on bringing about the Jewish Messiah. Like, those things are not really political. They're very occult because they are hidden from the general public. I mean, it is also very out in the open, very obvious, but it's not something that the general public discusses. It's not even something that, despite the fact that you've seen this spoken about at the White House or you've seen this in mainstream press, it's not something that's really talked about. It's just kind of there, and you have to piece the puzzle together yourself. It's good that more people are noticing, wait a minute, while people are arguing about this AI image of Trump, it's not really he's obviously not a doctor. And yeah, he might be Jesus in this image, but he's actually the magician from the tarot deck. People are recognizing, I think, more than ever, that this is a magical issue. It's an occult issue. It's not just a standard political issue. But we can't have any show without a little bit of comedy. And since I think it was last week or the week before, I played the Pete Hegseth bombing song where he was talking about sake bombs and Irish car bombs, and that's how they're going to defeat the Iranians because he's a drunk piece of trash. Tonight we have a new one, except this one isn't AI. This one is real. Pete Hegseth actually, literally, read a fake Bible verse, thinking it was real. And the fake Bible verse was from Pulp Fiction. Take a listen and watch this.
So the prayer is Ceasefire 25:17, and it reads, and pray with me, please. The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1, when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Say ceasefire one more time. Say ceasefire again. I dare you. I double dare you. Say ceasefire one more time. Say peace deal one more time. I dare you. Can you believe this? This is the biggest, this has to be the biggest joke in the history of the world. There is no culture. There is no civilization. There is no country. There is no group of people. There is no village, tribe. I don't think anybody in the history of the world ever has attempted to lead their people so blatantly dressed like an effing clown. I mean, this has got to be the most ridiculous administration that is far beyond anything that we saw in Idiocracy, the movie, which was turned out to be a documentary. It's worse than anything you saw in the Biden administration. I mean, if you thought some bald guy who pretended to be a woman who stole people's clothes from the airport, from their luggage, if you thought that was bad, this, I think, is 10 times worse. Reading kind of fake Bible verses from Pulp Fiction and incorporating pilots into it. And I'm sure that there's people in the audience and people that watch this that said, yeah, that's one of my favorite Bible verses too, Mr. Hegseth. Was this guy drunk at home watching Pulp Fiction, fell asleep, woke up, and thought, that was a good Bible verse I read last night. I'm gonna read that to the nation. I mean, I don't even know if it's, honestly, at this point, I don't even know if that's even sacrilege. I think it's more, I mean, obviously you could interpret it that way, but I think it's just like intended to be a criminal who wants to get caught. Like, clearly, it's so outrageous, it's so ridiculous that people like Pete Hegseth want to be caught. I think he wants to be fired. You can't do much else to say, I want to be fired, I want to be mocked, I want to be, I mean, frankly, he should be probably prosecuted for other things. You can't really do much else, you know, without just coming out and saying, hey, fire me, I'm a drunk piece of trash. It's really wild. Of course, the sacrilegious element of it comes into play when you see Trump dressed like Jesus and you see people referring to him repeatedly as if he's Jesus. As a matter of fact, we just had another one. There's a bunch of pastors who have done this repeatedly. Paula White has done this when she's not selling Bible verses and Bible miracles for $1,000 a pop from the White House. We have members of Congress, and I thought this was made up too when I first heard somebody say this, and then I went and looked up the video, and nope, it's real. A member of Congress refers to Donald Trump as the second coming of Christ. Second coming. And it's so just bizarre and weird. Here, take a listen to this.
I believe that Donald Trump is better than sliced bread. I think he's almost the second coming, in my humble opinion. I think he's done a fantastic job. He's got a very difficult job.
It's almost like the second coming. I mean, it's his opinion, of course, but at the very least, this is where you lay the political groundwork. At the very least, when Obama was presented as Jesus, he was the savior. Man, the conservative Christians just got pissed off. But when Trump does it, it's just trolling. When members of Congress say, actually, he's kind of like Jesus. Actually, he's the second coming, which of course plays into the rabbinical belief that he's the Moshiach and the Adelson belief that he's the actual Messiah, who, by the way, they're already doing it in real time, but they will permanently burn Trump. By they, I mean, yes, the Israelis will burn him. He will die of natural causes, or they will assassinate him, or he will shrink back into obscurity, burdened with all of the guilt of what the Israelis have done. And then they'll just say, next, who's willing to come up and sacrifice their values on the altar of Israel, the altar of Judaism? And people like, it appears, people like J.D. Vance are ready to make that sacrifice. He's already ready to sacrifice the country to Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel, and he's supposed to be the rational one. You lay that political groundwork, and then you can take a step further. You can move forward and you can say, well, okay, now that we've got the political framework established, now we can recognize that that's clearly the tarot card of the magician. It's not just Jesus. It's the tarot card of the magician. And you could say, as some in the chat have referenced here, I put one of them on the screen, you could say that Jesus is the magician. And you'd be right, he is. And of course, the archetypes of the tarot card refer to the self, and they could certainly be applied to Trump. They could be applied to the country as a whole. Without a doubt, Jesus was a magician. He even used a magic wand. You could find that in some old Christian and pre-Christian art. A lot of people use magic wands or staffs because it gives them the power of the divine. Speaking of the power of the divine, remember we did a show called The Crowman, where we talked about the crows that were flocking over Tel Aviv, and that's a really bad warning, whether it's in Celtic lore or Roman lore, or pretty much any lore. Anywhere you go, anywhere you look in the world, it's a bad omen. Usually it depends on which way the birds are flying, but typically, either way, it's still a pretty bad omen. Now there's been a swarm of bees, very large swarm of bees, that just like the crows have, I think, encouraged the public to step beyond the politics of it all and recognize that it's not just about politics or even your perceptual, personal Jesus, your personal religious views. These are like divine omens. I mean, how many times have you seen a country get swarmed with crows, then get swarmed with feces in the street because there were areas where most of the sewage lines got hit. And so the sewage just exploded onto the streets, which is funny enough is what they used to do to the people of Gaza. They used to spray feces. They used to spray sewage onto the streets, onto kids on the side of the road because they're sick demons. And then you see a swarm of bees, which typically, I mean, just like crows, they could be seen as a sign of a good omen, fertility or something like that. But usually they're seen as a very negative omen. Usually bees are seen as the hand of God. They are a divine portent that you better change your direction. You better stop doing what you're doing or you're going to be destroyed. And bees sort of have the same meaning as crows. If you see a bunch of them and they're swarming your town or your city, usually not a good sign, usually not a good thing. Now, just like this show is not really political and it's more occult, I want to make something else very clear. This show is also not an anti-Israel show. Now, I know that there are a handful of people across the United States who have a very hard time understanding what it means to think for yourself. So as soon as you hear one thing you don't like, you automatically assign the person who said it to a certain category. They become the enemy, and they can never redeem themselves unless they become a Christian. And then no matter what they've done, it seems to be forgiven instantaneously. But this is also not an anti-Israel show. And I'll tell you what, I'm so like Hank Hill now. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I am just I'm personally, my ego's hurt a little bit, okay? I mean, tonight we're letting go of our ego, but my ego's hurt a little bit because I've been saying this stuff about Israel my entire radio career. And it was never motivated by anything except just objectively, like with Obama and Bush, I didn't like drone strikes when Bush did it or illegal wars when Bush did it. I didn't like it when Obama did it. But one side says it's okay if it's their side doing it. The other side says it's not. Usually I haven't really changed my position. It's just the cults that change their position and move away from me. And then I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about. You experience this as well. So I think my ego is a little bit in the way here. And it really frustrates me to see that there are like 10 people that have been put on a list for being the most anti-Semitic in the United States. And I'm actually a little bit disappointed that I'm not on that list. I thought that this show for 16 years doing what we've done I thought I would at least be in the top 10, but apparently I'm not, and I'm a little bit disappointed about that. I do think that we should maybe make a list of the top 10 most threatening Jews in the United States. That would be, I think, that would be a positive thing. What do you think? We should make a list of the top 10 most threatening Jews. I mean, if you look at this list of the top 10 anti-Semites, Greta Thunberg is on the list. How is Greta Thunberg a better anti-Semite than I am? I don't understand. Here's the list. Dan Bilzerian, number 1. Or Bilzerian, number 1. Greta Thunberg, number 2. Bassem Youssef, number 3. Never heard of the guy. Candace Owens, number 4. Abdel Bari Atwan. Never heard of the guy. Although I would suspect that Bassem Youssef and Abdel Bari Atwan are probably Semites themselves. I would assume Omar Suleiman is also a Semite. Anastasia Lupus, which I don't think that's a real person. Maybe it is. Nicholas Fuentes, who is, they'd like to paint him as a white supremacist, but he's also kind of Mexican the last time I checked. Ian Carroll, who was a super left-wing liberal hippie wacko living up in, I think, the northwest of the country, which tends to attract wackos like that. And then one day he just decided, you know what, I'm going to go on InfoWars. I'm going to go on Candace Owens. And InfoWars and Candace Owens said, yeah, sure, you can come on. Who is Ian Carroll? Why does he just get to start talking and people listen to him? And Tucker Carlson, how's Tucker Carlson number 10? He should be number 1. Dan Bilzerian shouldn't be number 1. I should be on this list. Why am I not on this list? I'm a little bit upset by that. I think we should make a list of the top 10 worst Jews in the United States. It would be a really hard list to make. You'd be constantly reshuffling the deck, but we could probably put people like Howard Lutnick in here. We would have a hard time differentiating what would be the worst, because if you brought together the pornography industry, the hookup culture industry, people like Leonard Ravinsky have now died. God don't rest his soul, so I don't think he would be on the list. Maybe we can make a list of the top 10 worst Jews who are now finally, thank God, dead and can't contribute to the destruction of civilization anymore, like Leonard Ravinsky, who founded OnlyFans and then took OnlyFans money and pumped it back into the IDF to slaughter children, literally with money made from exposing non-Jewish women or having them, encouraging them to expose themselves to people on the internet. Yeah, it's real nice, real lovely, real Torah-based, I'm sure. So let's make a list of the top 10 worst Jews in America. Why can't we do that? I think that's what we should do. Top 10 worst Jews. It's a hard list to make, though, because there's so many bad ones. I'm sure you've heard this by now, but I'm just going to play it for you again. If you've heard it, you know it, but it can't hurt to listen to it again. Let's just listen to what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about the ceasefire. Which one? I don't even know at this point, because there's like a new ceasefire every day. Israel violates it every day. And then we're told they didn't violate it. The U.S. actually didn't include the country that Israel's bombing in the ceasefire, even though the guy that made the agreement said that Lebanon was involved. So I don't know what is even happening anymore. It's just, and then they tell you, the president of peace, he got peace in Gaza. There's no peace in Gaza. He got peace in Lebanon. There's no peace in Lebanon. Let's listen to what Netanyahu had to say. This is translated.
And Israel is stronger than ever. This is the bottom line of this campaign up until now. Let me say, there are still additional objectives for us to achieve, and we will achieve them, either by agreement or by resumption of the fighting. We are ready to resume the fighting at any moment. Our finger is on the trigger. As you know, 2-week ceasefire has been announced between the U.S. and Iran. No, we were not surprised in the last moment, and I want to emphasize, this is not the end of the war. This is a step in order to achieve all the objectives.
It's not the end of the war. It's a step to achieve all their objectives. Benjamin Netanyahu says, the war will continue because that's what I want. Chrissy in the chat says, they claim that they are the top 10 anti-Semites in the world, but for some reason their channels have all kinds of reach. Yeah, I wonder why that is, Chrissy. Could it be that people like Dan Bilzerian and people like Nick Fuentes are actually doing the work of Israel? They're the outlet to relieve the pressure that builds up because of the blatant disregard for humanity and civilization and morals and values and laws that Israel is guilty as sin, all the blood on their hands, all the murdering of children intentionally as part of some religious holy war ritual. Maybe there's too much pressure built up, so they've allowed certain voices to go viral to control the narrative, and that is precisely what I believe this is. And that brings me back to good old Nick Fuentes, who wants to abolish the Constitution and install some kind of like Catholic theocracy. We need better white supremacists, by the way. And we need to, I think, define what that word means in our culture, because the last time I checked, about what's the I think it's 75% or something I read, is like 75% of Japanese people support the current prime minister. And according to Western media, they're white supremacists. So I'm not sure how the Japanese are white supremacists, but we also consider them white supremacists. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that I've read some real wild articles in the US where they call Hispanics white supremacists for wanting to have a solid border security. So Hispanics are white supremacists. When black people commit crimes, that's also a byproduct of white supremacy. I mean, with all these Hispanic and black and half Hispanic, half maybe white kind of mixed race people that are white supremacists, you don't need skinheads anymore. They're also, retards as well. But here's Nick Fuentes, and this is also Anna Kasparian. And this is Canary Mission. Canary Mission is a foreign, outside of the country group that blackmails American citizens by gathering up things that they've said and done and sending it to the White House to instruct them to investigate them. And there have been numerous cases in the last year and a half where Canary Mission has gotten American citizens or residents of the country either investigated, arrested, or deported. This is a foreign country doing this. This isn't even our own government doing this directly. This is a foreign country instructing our government to do this. We need better white supremacists, though. All we have is Nick Fuentes, which, when the first time he popped up on the scene, just like Ian Carroll, I said, I'm sure I could have a conversation with these guys. Of course, they don't ever go on anybody's show or actually have conversations with people unless it's totally a controlled environment, kind of like Corey Good and David Wilcock. They just won't talk to anybody unless it is a person who already agrees with them without question, or it's a very controlled environment and there's the potential for some kind of financial benefit to it. That's the only way they'll talk to anybody. Otherwise, even if you're in person with them at a conference, they just stay hidden away behind security in their room because they don't want to ask questions. Here is Canary Mission, though. Canary Mission, and there's a bunch of Mockingbird Canary Mission-like organizations, Facebook posts, X posts, I'm sure all over the other platforms that I don't use because I'm banned from them. And this is a video cut of Nick Fuentes and Anna Kasparian saying pretty much the same thing, kind of almost reading verbatim like Pete Hegseth did from the Bible of Pulp Fiction. And the idea here is Canary Mission says Anna Kasparian and Nick Fuentes, these are people on the far left and the far right. I don't know how you can consider Nick Fuentes on the far right, by the way. Most of what he advocates for is very far left, which also tells you something about where this propaganda is coming from, because as Charlie Kirk said before, I would expect it to eventually be declared truth that his microphone exploded like those pagers and cut his neck open and killed him. Just like Charlie Kirk said, it's Jewish billionaires that exemplify all these stereotypes, and that's where all this stuff that's on the left wing comes from. I imagine that's just another piece of proof. That's really who Nick Fuentes and Anna Kasparian are. Maybe Nick more than Anna. I don't know much about her, but they say she's left wing, he's right wing. It's all part of the production, all part of, Wag the Dog. It's all part of what Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf. So it says this: they market themselves as opposition But then you see them side by side saying the exact same thing. You cannot unwatch this. Now, there's two ways to look at this video and two ways to listen to it. The first way to listen to this and watch this is to understand that, considering that people like Ana Kasparian and Nick Fuentes, or myself for that matter, or any of you for that matter, we say stuff every day of our lives. And if someone were to record what we say every day of our lives, I'm pretty sure that you can find someone else who has the same belief, and then you put them together, and Canary Mission wants you to think that that's proof that they're getting a talking point, that they're getting a script from somebody else, and that they're really just this controlled opposition, which is kind of ironic because that's the second thing. The second thing is you watch this and you think they are controlled opposition, except they're not controlled opposition that are anti-Israel. They're actually very pro-Israel, but they appear anti-Israel. Why? Because you have to control both sides of the narrative. And if you want some historical context for this, Adolf Hitler, the painter, writes it in Mein Kampf. He says this is what the Jews do. They control their own opposition to relieve the pressure against them, to lead people astray. As Joseph Goebbels said, the truth is almost indistinguishable from the propaganda. The propaganda is good propaganda, is the truth, just with one little piece that's altered just slightly. So let's listen to this. And as you listen to this, you'll notice a third thing. You'll notice that, well, if you're listening to this show, you'll probably realize that I've been saying these things longer than Nick or Anna have. Does that mean that I'm also part of this? Or does it also, a fourth thing, mean that maybe what's being said here, regardless of who these people work for or who they indirectly are employed by, because the algorithm allows them to go viral, whatever the case might be, you'll notice that apparently noticing these things is now proof that you don't actually believe these things. You're just noticing them because other people pointed them out, which really is like going to a school and going into like a math class or going into like an English class. And when, some student finally learns how to do, I don't know, basic algebra, you're like, you don't really know how to do algebra. The teacher just showed you how to do it. And you're like, well, yeah, that's how I know how to do it now. Well, you don't really know how to do it. You don't really know what nouns and verbs and adjectives are. The teacher just taught you that. Well, yeah. And I know what this propaganda is too, because there's a very similar form of this propaganda with feminism, where feminists argue, and other people that might kind of be like feminists, they argue, oh, you just like I've had women argue this to me. You just like me because of the way that I look. It's like, well, that's kind of the whole fucking point, isn't it? You just like me because of my personality. Well, isn't that the whole point? And that's what this is. Oh, you just think this because it's true. Well, yeah, that's kind of the whole point, because it's true. Let's take a listen. I have to reload the page real fast, but let's take a listen to this. Nick Fuentes and Ana Kasparian. And for those of you who also think that I'm too long-winded, I find it a necessity to try to break down every possible angle I can think of to set things like this up so you can get some context for it.
Our country is under a hostile occupation.
Israeli occupation of the United States government.
Israel controls our government.
Israel controls our government.
Control and influence and manipulate our system.
Ruled and controlled and manipulated by the nation state of Israel.
They are vampires. They suck our blood.
They suck the life out of this country.
We cannot be slaves to Israel.
I'm not a slave to Israel.
Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
Iran did not have a nuclear arsenal.
The supreme leader of Iran promulgated a fatwa.
He had to put out a fatwa against nuclear weapons.
We had to join Israel's war of choice.
A war of choice. That's what this is.
The real threat to America is from Israel.
Our alliance with Israel as an existential threat to the United States.
They will nuke the entire world.
Israel is the biggest threat to world peace.
Let us never forget who the real enemy is.
The enemy is Israel.
We need to decouple from this country.
We need to decouple. Decouple. Let's separate.
We need to free America from this sick, perverse, parasitic organism that has attached itself to us.
And now they're going to show social media posts.
Nationals leeching off of public services.
The pariah state that has leached off the American people.
It's not just Netanyahu. On some level, it is the Israeli people.
The behavior of the Israeli government and, quite honestly, the vast majority of the Israeli population.
They dehumanize us. They don't see us.
I don't see Palestinians as human.
I'm an awakened goy.
Oh no, they posted the same thing on social media.
Think they're better than everybody.
And you think you're better than everyone else.
You know, the Jews do this.
Yes.
Go the fuck back to Israel.
Go back to Israel.
Greater Israel.
The Greater Israel Project.
The famous dancing Israelis.
The whole dancing Israelis thing.
The genocidal state.
A genocidal, disgusting state.
Why would I give a fuck about Israel?
I don't give a damn about Israel. I don't give a damn.
And I don't fucking trust them.
I don't trust the Israelis.
Your right to exist is not real.
I don't believe Israel has the right to exist.
Don't be moralized by wicked, evil people.
People as evil as this exist in this world.
God's chosen people rejected their own Messiah.
You think you're God's chosen people when you act like absolute demons.
Well, when you think that God chose you, that gives you the moral licensing to act like demons. It's kind of like the phenomena in diet culture, where because you're going to start a diet tomorrow, you decide to eat like 6 pizzas tonight and a gallon of ice cream. I'm going to start tomorrow, so it's okay. Don't worry. That's that moral licensing. Or I signed up for a I don't know, like a kickboxing class, so I can go to Golden Corral tonight and get 2 buffets because I have the moral licensing to do it. And that's pretty much what being God's chosen people means. But if you listen to that, I'm sure that you'd agree with the majority of what's being said there, because the Israelis themselves, their government, their citizens, they say those things. They believe those things. Does that mean that Nick Fuentes and Anna Kasparian should be trusted? No. And that's where the op comes into play. As Chrissy said in the chat, it's 100% an op. I do believe that that's the case. I don't trust Anna Kasparian. I would like to talk with her, but she's not going to talk with me. I'd like to talk with Nick Fuentes. I've been reaching out to Nick Fuentes since he first came on the scene. I've never even gotten an automated message back. In fact, I'm pretty sure that most of these people you can't contact. I'm pretty sure that it's a very small select group of people. Like, I've been doing this how much longer than Nick Fuentes? 2 times or more as long as he has. Then not only has the New York Times never reached out to me. I was just talking to a friend of mine in radio who's been doing this, I think, about as long as I have. He might have even been in radio slightly longer. And he says he gets people reach out to him all the time for interviews, like, what do they call them? Like publicists. In 16 years of radio, I have never had anybody reach out to me ever for anything, except one woman at a publishing company. And that's only because I signed up at the publishing company and I had a contact with them because of a friend of mine who was published with them. And they once in a while have reached out to me to send me like a review copy of a book. In 16 years, no one's ever reached out to me for anything. And people like Nick Fuentes, Ian Carroll, they just pop up one day. Hey, I'm going to go on InfoWars. Great. Alex would love to have you on. Whoever is behind this, I don't know if it's just purely an algorithm, if it's a matter of advertisers, whatever it is, though. Does the public genuinely believe this? And then you listen to what these people say, whether you agree with it or not, you eventually come to the conclusion that, well, at least, even if I agree, they're angry. They're really, really angry. And that's not really the way to approach this subject, because you're going to hurt people's feelings. I don't care what people think. But the thing is, despite what Nick Fuentes and Anna Kasparian sound like, they do care what people think because they have a limit. They have a line. I don't know what it is for Anna Kasparian, but I know what it is for Nick Fuentes. For Nick Fuentes, the line is Catholicism. That's where he draws the line. Nick Fuentes has gone on radio shows, all totally scripted, highly controlled environments, and said that, well, you know, some of these Muslim countries, they just have Islam as the dominant religion, and you can maybe practice other religions, but that's the main religion. That's what it should be like in the United States. And you get people who otherwise wouldn't be opposed to the First Amendment, wouldn't be opposed to freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of choosing your own religion, not being compelled to practice or forced to not be able to practice. And now you agree that, yeah, maybe we should just be a Christian country and get rid of the First Amendment. And the people that have been trying to get rid of the First Amendment have always been Jews. They've always been communists. They've always been tyrants. Whether it's removing the American flag, or it's getting rid of prayer in school, or it's shutting down free speech, or it's shutting down lawful, legal, peaceful protests and allowing violent, aggressive, looting type protests, it's always been Jews and communists, Bolshevik-style radicals. And so because they haven't been as successful at eliminating the First Amendment, they go to some half Mexican, half white, half Irish, half whatever he is, and they make him a symbol of white supremacy, which is just a mockery. And then they get some of the outliers in society that really don't agree with the way that things are going. They get this whole group of people that you call white supremacists, which they're not. They're just people that are like, I'm kind of done with the left-right paradigm. People that also have no idea about the Constitution, the whole point of what the country is all about and what it's founded on. And they bring them in to Nick Fuentes. He seems like he's real credible, and then he starts saying real crazy stuff like, let's just abolish the First Amendment and install the Pope as the king of the presidency of the United States of America. And people are like, well, I guess that's not a bad idea. We can't trust the Republicans and Democrats, so let's just abolish the Constitution. So they're going to approach it, and they're going to accomplish it, hopefully through that outlet. At least that's one of the outlets they have. Does that make sense? Because that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's how it's being done. And again, I don't know as much about Anna Kasparian, but I believe and I assume she plays a very similar role with what I've never actually listened to her talk about anything except I've seen the clips of her wringing her hands together, which I maintain is still hilarious. Because if you can pee on Jesus on Curb Your Enthusiasm, if you can make fun of Muslims, if you can call for the banning of Islam, then I can rub my hands together. You know, I can really like Watto from Star Wars, the Jewish slave trader. And I can also really, really like the goblins from Gringotts Bank, because those are accurate caricatures and depictions of bankers. You're upset that they're anti-Semitic? Well, I mean, then you're kind of assuming that all bankers are Jews then, right? Even though Jews are not necessarily Semites. So anyway, point is, that's what that is that you just heard. That is foreign propaganda, either way you slice it. Now let's look at some more of the recent political stuff. We'll burn through this relatively quickly. Let's take a look at this. Here is the Associated Press. And I apologize for all the advertisements. This is unfortunately what news articles are nowadays, just tons and tons and tons of ads, even from the Associated Press. Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz, but Trump says blockade on Iranian ships and ports will stay in force. I read the article. You could read it if you want. It's not really the point. The point is the headline from April 16th, Thursday, is that the Strait of Hormuz is open again. Now, see, I'm confused because the last time I checked, it was open before we started the war. And then it turns out it actually wasn't even closed during the war, which is still ongoing. It was just maybe closed to American ships because Chinese ships still got through. The Japanese negotiated with the Iranians and said, hey, we're not going to kill your children. Can we get oil? And the Iranians said, sure, you can get oil, Japan, if you don't kill our children. That sounds like a good plan. Don't team up with the Americans. They're disgusting. They're repulsive. They're vile. They're evil like the Israelis and the Jews are. So as long as you don't support that, here's as much oil as you want. And guess what? Prices over here might go up for other reasons, but they surely aren't going to go up because of Iranian oil. And so they say that the strait's open, but it was never really closed in the first place. And in fact, the only closure that actually, I think, took place was because of the threats of violence. There were insurance underwriters on the ships who I guarantee you were also probably Jewish. And they said, yeah, we're not going to insure the ships. We're not going to insure the crew if you sail through those waters because they're very dangerous at the moment. There's insurance companies that shut it down pretty much. So it's all just a production. And then you read headlines and you listen to stories. You hear news reports about how now that we got the Strait of Hormuz open, we're just were so powerful. We've had to sail ships, around the tip of Africa. Because we can't defeat the Houthis. Did you hear about that, by the way? We can't even, with these billion-dollar aircraft carriers and billions of dollars in planes, we can't defeat the Houthis, which are basically like what, goat farmers or something. Can't defeat them, so we got to sail around the tip of Africa to get the job done. Anyway, the point is, I think I do have that clip I could play you. The point is, now that the strait's open, even though it was never really closed, and even if it was like it was open before we started the war, but anyway, the point of what I'm getting at here is if you've been convinced now that, oh, things are great, we won, woohoo, yeah, it's all amazing, it's just so wonderful, we're so powerful. Now you might have noticed that there's like two different lanes of propaganda. There's the Strait of Hormuz propaganda, and then there's the Trump Netanyahu propaganda feed. And that one is trying to convince you that Israel doesn't control the United States, even though Netanyahu, you just heard him say that the war will end when he wants it to end. And we also have another clip of him saying that J.D. Vance reports directly to him. Well, now the president says, listen here, Israel, enough's enough. You don't get to keep bombing Lebanon. This is Reuters reporting this for me last night, but for you this afternoon, or maybe it was this morning your time. Reuters, Trump says Israel barred from bombing Lebanon. Enough is enough. Trump insists any Iran deal is separate from Lebanon ceasefire, even though we have the statement from the negotiator who said that Lebanon was explicitly part of the deal. But, who cares about what the negotiator who actually negotiated the deal says, because Israel said that it's not, and so it's not, because they are God. Netanyahu says Israeli forces remain in Lebanon to counter rocket and drone threats. Ceasefire does not require Israeli troops to withdraw from southern Lebanon. Wow. So the Israelis they don't have to abide by any laws, I guess. They don't have to abide by even, paper-thin ceasefire, peace agreement. Hey, stop murdering people. You know what I think ceasefires are to the Israelis? Ceasefires to the Israelis are a gaslighting operation. They go like this. We will tell them that we are not going to bomb them. They will agree. Let's not bomb them either. And when we both agree not to bomb each other, and we both sit down and take a deep breath and let's figure all this out, then the Israelis drop white phosphorus on hospitals and schools. And that's not my opinion. They've been firing white phosphorus into Lebanon and burning people. I'm pretty sure that's illegal, and I'm pretty sure that that is a war crime, and I'm pretty sure that even under the conditions of any kind of conflict or occupation or whatever it might be, that is particularly vile. Of course, despite the fact that the international community has an issue with it, virtually nothing is done about it because everybody's concerned about the next Holocaust. Well, you know what? Maybe the next Holocaust is justified. Oh my God, he wants to murder Jews. No. I mean, the Holocaust in terms of what the Nazis actually said it was. Do you know what they actually said it was? Well, before they had their testicles crushed by a bunch of Jewish lawyers, the thing that they were talking about was actually the final solution, which was a deportation policy. So that's the next final solution / Holocaust that I'm talking about. And that one is absolutely coming to a town or a city or a state or a country near you. For the same reason that people don't like Israeli tourists, because Israeli tourists outside of Chinese tourists are considered the most vile, disrespectful, and usually they're thieves. They steal everything from hotel rooms. They're scum. You don't believe me? Look it up. Israeli tourists and Chinese tourists are the worst tourists in the world. I mean, I've seen probably 10 videos just this year of Israeli tourists in parts of Asia, just Israeli guys, probably IDF, walking around with their shirts off, harassing people. And then they've got like a camera crew that films when the people gang up on them and attack them. Oh my God, he knocked his yarmulke off. He's an innocent poor Jew. And then someone releases the video footage of what happened before, and it's some drunk Jew in a bar trying to pick a fight with people. And when everybody in the bar of every race, ethnicity, background wealth category bracket, they all get together and say, screw this guy, and they beat the hell out of him in the street. Oh, no, it was a Shonda. Shut up. We're sick of it. We're tired of it. We're done with it. It's disgusting, and we're not going to play this game anymore. And so that's why we've been given Nick Fuentes and Anna Kasparian and Dan Bilzerian and all the others, so that they can relieve the pressure that these Israeli tourists and Israeli terrorists have created. To relieve the pressure, to take some of the pressure off of the fact that the entire world despises these people for their actions, for the way that they behave. In the same way that when I walk in front, like when I lived in the U.S. and I walked to like a 7-Eleven, normally it was a group of black guys. But I wasn't scared because it was a group of black guys. If I was walking into a 7-Eleven, I was taking a drive on a vacation or something, and it's like 2:00 in the morning. I wasn't scared because it was a group of black guys. I was scared because it was a group of suspicious looking people who were harassing people coming in and out of the store. But the fact that usually 9 out of 10 times it was black guys, I started to develop a kind of, feeling about that. And that's usually what happens when you see a group of people behaving a certain way all the time. You start to notice that, you probably can't trust a group of black guys in front of a 7-Eleven. You probably can't trust equally some skinny white meth head looking people at a Circle K in Tucson. And you probably can't trust a group of Jews who refuse to tell the truth about what they're involved in. And that goes back to Jonathan Pollard, who says he was told to never out a Jew no matter what. Always cover for the Jews, even if they've committed treason, even if they're traitors. So anyway, let's get back to the story. The story is that Iran and the Americans and the Israelis and the Lebanese, this is all a ceasefire now. There's nothing to worry about. First, there was a ceasefire that included Lebanon. Then it didn't include Lebanon. And now we're told that there's another ceasefire that does include Lebanon. I thought the first one did. And in the middle of that, we're being told, but, it's great because the president has peace agreements in Gaza. He doesn't. The president has peace agreements with the Iranians. He doesn't. The president has peace agreements with the Lebanese and the Israelis. He doesn't. Is that really the worst thing that the president can say, or like the strongest thing I should say that the president can say? He told the Iranians he was going to destroy their entire civilization overnight, exterminate 92.4 million people. I know they're not Jews, so it's okay. But the worst thing, the most aggressive thing he can say to the Israelis is, enough is enough. Compare and contrast those two things. I'm going to destroy your civilization. I'm going to murder 92.4 million people overnight with advanced weapons. And enough is enough. This is like a favorite child, and you let one child run free and the other one gets punished. It's like Iran is Harry Potter, and that fat kid, is it his brother or whoever it was? I don't particularly like Harry Potter, but whatever his fat brother was who got all the attention, they make Harry live under the stairs and the fat kid gets all the cake and presents. Israel's like the fat kid with the cake and presents. They make sure Harry Potter stays under the stairs. Those are the Iranians, the Arabs, the Muslims, and pretty much all the non-Jews and Christians. They get to sleep under the stairs. The fat kid gets all the presents. And the worst they'll say to him is, enough is enough, fatty. Enough is enough. That's the extent of it. But for the Iranians, we're going to kill every single one of you. We're going to murder all of you, 92.4 million people. By the way, I've noticed that now is a talking point of Tucker Carlson. Is this guy listening to this show? Do you know how many people have messaged me on Facebook, X, and in email in the last 48 hours and said, Ryan, what is going on? I don't believe you that your show's not that popular, like on Apple or other platforms, because I've listened to you for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, 5 years. And suddenly Tucker Carlson, Anna Kasparian, Nick Fuentes, Dan Bilzerian, and all these other people are just repeating verbatim the things that you've said. Professor Zhang, who's not a professor, repeating the things that you've said. And I'll tell them, I don't know. I can't explain it. It might be because they're listening. It probably isn't. It's more likely because it's just so obvious now and it's just out in the open and you really can't, I mean, you really can't deny it. I mean, denying it is really the equivalent at this point of denying that Donald Trump is mentally ill or denying that Pete Hegseth is a drunk. I mean, you can do it, but or better yet, denying that the president was promoted as the peace president just a few months ago and that he had promised for years that there was no more wars. I mean, you can do it. I've got people that I've seen do it. I've seen people do it. When did he ever say he was the peace president? It's like literally in your own social media feed, you were posting that not 2 months ago. I don't remember saying that. No, you did. You were one of the biggest advocates for Trump being the peace president. See, this is why it's important to understand psychology. It's important to understand like the origin of words and the magic of words and how it affects people. It's important to understand what people's religious beliefs are, like their faith, because that's what is inspiring. That's what's pushing for this type of thing. That's what's bringing us to the brink of like laughable destruction. It's just like reading Bible verses from Pulp Fiction. What is that? That's just crazy. It's the worst thing, the absolute worst possible thing that the president can say to the Israelis is, that's it. Enough is enough. All right, come out of the pool. All right, come on. We're going to go home from the park. And the kid just says, no, I'm not going to. I don't want to. And the parents are like, all right, 5 more minutes. It's okay. All right, 10 more minutes. It's okay. All right, another half hour. It's okay. But we're going home then. Well, I want McDonald's. Okay, we'll stop at McDonald's too. That's what this is. And ironically, while they're trying to convince you that what you're looking at here is the president being all strong and tough about the Israelis, it actually proves not that the president controls Israel, but that the Israelis control the president. That's what it proves. If we're not clear on why it proves that because, again, the president of the United States will tell the Iranians that he will murder 92.4 million of them. Now, something Tucker is also repeating and regurgitating. 92 million of them he'll slaughter. But for the Israelis, it's just enough is enough. Yeah, sure, we can go to McDonald's. I mean, I don't know what else I'm supposed to think about this. That's what it appears to look like to me. And so when I woke up this morning, I read this from the Jerusalem Post. And of course, I trust the Jerusalem Post because I'm not an anti-Semite. I trust anything that they say. It's totally 100% factual and true. The IDF to continue to attack Hezbollah in southern Lebanon despite ceasefire. Oh, no. So here's how it goes. There's a ceasefire, Lebanon's included, and then it's not included. And then we're going to go and have a conversation with these people to figure out what's really going on. And J.D. Vance stands in front of a plane and says, yeah, we're talking with them. We're going to negotiate with them. Then he comes back from the talk and he says, well, there's no ceasefire. We couldn't get it done. That's just too bad. But we wanted to get it done. But, these people cannot be trusted, which ironically and funny enough is also what the Iranians are accusing the Americans of, except the Americans have no reason not to trust the Iranians. The Iranians have every reason not to trust the Americans because the Americans have done nothing but lie to them. And by Americans, I mean 2 Jews named Witkoff and Kushner have done nothing but lie. So here's NBC News several days ago. No agreement between the U.S. and Iran after 21 hours of talks. That is literally like hours after they told us that there was a ceasefire deal. Literally hours after, when all the talking heads repeating the same nonsense. We got peace. He's the peace president. See, it didn't turn into nuclear war. He's the peace president. He's the peace president. He's the peace president. And then actually there's no agreement. But you just literally told us there was an agreement. Now there's not an agreement. And then they tell us again, there's an agreement Trump's really angry at the Israelis. He told them enough is enough. No more bombing Lebanon. And then Netanyahu just said, well, actually, our forces are going to stay in Lebanon because we have to counter the drone strikes that they're probably also running in order to justify killing children and civilians. And then the IDF the Jerusalem Post says, yeah, we're going to continue to do this despite this. Literally, they just put this in their own papers. Literally, IDF to continue to attack Hezbollah in southern Lebanon despite ceasefire.
We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could. And they have chosen not to accept our terms.
Yeah, because their terms were, we're going to murder every one of your people and give your land to Israel. That's because that's what their terms are. You know, I never really understood the psychology of bullying, bullying where people are kind of insecure about themselves. They pick on other kids. I got bullied in school. And I've always hated bullies because of that. But I got to tell you something. I don't know what it is about JD Vance, but he makes me want to bully him. Like, I want to punch him in the face and smear his eyeliner all over his face. I want to just like break his nose, like Alex Jones style. I'll tell you what, I ganged, 6 black guys ganged up on me. I broke all their noses. Or I'm just saying, I want to knock this guy out. He is like such a disgusting, vile person. Notice he's also not Jewish. So apparently I dislike people that are scum. I dislike fake Christians like JD Vance. He's disgusting. He makes me want to bully somebody, It's like that Bill Burr bit. He said, I understand why people that put on suits turn out to be psychopaths a lot of the time. It's because you put a suit on, it starts riding up. You're like, I got to take something over. I got to invade somebody. That's how I feel about this. Fuck this guy. He is such a subhuman piece of trash, JD Vance. He might honestly... I can look at Trump and not be as disgusted as I am when I look at JD Vance, because I know what JD Vance is. He is the same demon, just in a younger model, the same demon in a younger body, and maybe slightly more aggressive and vile than the one that possesses Netanyahu and Trump. He is so gross. He is so disgusting. And yet he's got the remainder of MAGA and what is left of, quote, American patriotism wrapped around his fingers. He doesn't even want the war. Look, he's a great guy, which is another contradictory thing, because Trump's also winning the war that's not a war, but then JD Vance is also here to say he's against the war, but he's also for it, but he's going to be the guy that's anti-war when they've burned Trump. I mean, really, I think that in the chat room, who said this in the chat room, if I can find it, Agorist Alex in the chat, I think you summed it up the best, buddy. Agorist Alex in the chat said, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Yes. Will Ferrell, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I really do. I might have overdosed on the crazy pills. Now, I do think that there is something how do I say this? There's something healthy. Is that the word I'm looking for? There's something healthy about this kind of repetitious anti-Israel sentiment, anti-Trump sentiment. There's something healthy about it in the sense that it's justified. So don't get me wrong. It's just a matter of figuring out at what point do we stop supporting it and we diverge onto our own path. Because the whole point is to, just like with QAnon, collect a bunch of people who believe something that's justified, like there's corruption in government, and then they set the course for the edge of a cliff, and you better get off before the edge of the cliff is reached. And that's kind of the same thing with this Israeli stuff, because the cliff in this case is total censorship of everything, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. That would include bills that are passed by Congress that are going to, or at least the House, that are going to the Senate, that would make Christianity illegal. Did you know that was happening? Probably not, because you were too bad sucking the dicks of Jews. You probably didn't know that Randy Fine has already implemented one of those laws in the state of Florida, which is totally occupied by the Jews. You probably didn't know that Randy Fine wants to implement that nationwide, which would make illegal Christianity. But that's okay because of Jews or something, or the Holocaust or something. Let's listen to Jeffrey Sachs. Honestly, I don't even know who Jeffrey Sachs is. Joe Ryder in the chat just asked, what are your thoughts? I don't even know who the guy is. I don't pay attention to any of these people. I barely even know who Piers Morgan is. All I know is when someone says something that sounds accurate, we'll play it for context. We'll play it for point of reference. And I don't know who Jeffrey Sachs is. Honestly, I've seen him before. But Jeffrey Sachs, whoever this is, he is making a really crystal clear point that I've made on this show for over, I don't know how many years now, but it's very accurate.
Where are we with this war? What is going on? I mean, as I'm about to talk to you, Hillary Clinton has posted, Trump has become fully unhinged, and we should talk about it.
Oh,
on
yeah.
MS Now.
Hillary Clinton's not completely unhinged.
Morning.
What does it even matter?
I read these posts, like the majority of Americans, both shaking my head and really just feeling sick that we have a president who is such a disgrace. And this follows another barrage of slightly bonkers posts by Donald Trump, pretending to be Jesus and attacking the Pope and so on and so on. Very familiar pattern to 6 weeks now, this kind of thing, attacking NATO, attacking all the European countries, attacking conservative podcasters, pretty well looking like he's on a rampage of, I guess, trying to find people to blame for what many people now think is turning into an enormous mess. What is your reading of it?
Well, it certainly is a disaster. It's a disaster of two people, Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. They are both mentally unstable as individuals, and they both lead ruthless governments. Both are waging war relentlessly, brutally. Donald Trump has said things in the last few days that of a shocking nature that no president in American history has ever come close to uttering. And he's now attacked Pope Leo and posted a picture of himself as Jesus Christ. In other words, the man is mentally, this is one of the few times I agree with Hillary Clinton, I guess. The man is mentally unstable. The war is a disaster. It is going to create a global crisis. It was a war, not even to say of choice, but of whim of Netanyahu and Trump. Two people got us into this. It's a measure of how completely deinstitutionalized the United States government is, that this is basically a war chosen by one person with a sycophantic Secretary of Defense, all the rest of his tiny inside team going along, but knowing that this is...
That's tiny hat inside team.
Tragic and farcical is the word that one of the insiders used. And no role whatsoever of Congress, no evidence of even a minimal interagency consultations other than to hear the objections.
And firing and investigating anybody who dared to say, based on their knowledge, having led, say, I don't know, the counterterrorism department or parts of the military, just fire them and investigate them if they dare to say that they don't have nuclear weapons.
Of the intelligence agencies and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So we're in the hands of absolute craziness.
Absolute lunatics, wacko, insane, crazy people. Let's take a look at something that the Iranians had said. And see, this is precisely like with the Nick Fuentes, Anna Kasparian thing. Oh, if you say what they say, you're just repeating talking points and you don't actually believe those things about Israel. Well, here is the message that the Iranians have sent the United States. It's the same message that I've talked about on this show because it's what happened. And the message is pretty clear. It's basically what you can read on your screen. I'll summarize it for listeners. It's due to the previous two wars. I'm assuming that means the current one that is ongoing, but I guess it's over temporarily. And then last year, where two negotiators Kushner and Witkoff lied to the Iranians to bomb them, to lull them into a false sense of security, to bomb them and kill them, including killing negotiators. I mean, killing negotiators during negotiations, that just probably isn't going to turn out that well. That's why the Iranians don't trust us. And yet it's J.D. Vance telling us that, oh, wait, the Iranians can't be trusted. No, the Jews can't be trusted. Witkoff can't be trusted, and Kushner can't be trusted. J.D. Vance and his eyeliner can't be trusted. Donald Trump and his fat gut and his Coca-Cola can't be trusted. Netanyahu and the blood dripping out of his mouth can't be trusted. Neither can any of the other Bens and Israels and whatever they are, the Abrahams running Israel. None of them can be trusted. And yet that's why you constantly see this just incessant, just repetitive, compulsive. It's Islam that can't be trusted. It's Muslims that can't be trusted. We have to shut down the mosque. We have to kick out all the Muslims. We have to ban the Quran. We have to get rid of the Arabs, because they know, and Randy Fine, the obese Jew in Florida, knows this and has said this, that we have reached the point now where everybody is going to unilaterally agree. Everybody's going to just simultaneously agree. They're going to come to the same conclusion. I don't care if you are Chinese. I don't care if you are Australian. I don't care if you are Native American, Brazilian, Canadian. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your belief. You could be Shintoist, you could be Catholic. And everybody just kind of agrees, you know what? The world would be a much better place if these Israelis were not here. Everybody knows it. Everybody agrees with it. Everybody sees it. And I genuinely actually feel bad for decent Jews who believe the same things and know the same things. And guess who's going to get wrapped up in that? Average, everyday, Orthodox Jews who don't disparage Jesus, who do live by the Torah. They get wrapped up in this. And guess who else gets wrapped up in this? I get wrapped up in this. You get wrapped up in this. Because here's how it goes. I've said this many times before. When eventually you get a Nick Fuentes type person installed in a government position, and Dan Bilzerian's calling for this, more people who hate Israel run for government, as if that should be the sole platform that representatives hold. Just you're anti-Israel, run for government, which is about as stupid as you're pro-Israel, so run for government. It's like, it should be about the rule of law. But anyway, the point is, it's obvious. And the more people who get on board with this and who take the extremist stance, what do you think is going to happen to people like myself or people like you who say, well, hold on a second. There's a whole bunch of Orthodox conservative Jews in New York City who protest against this. They're not liberal. They're conservative. They don't get any media attention because they're not the right Jews. They're not the Jews we're looking for. That would be a good show name. These are not the Jews you're looking for. And they get spit on and mocked by people like that disgusting pot-faced pervert Shmuley. Whatever medical condition he has for his face is the same thing that vile Jew, that fake comedian who got mauled by the bear in Fallout, it's the same facial condition, which I think is just centuries of inbreeding and having sex with, your sister. But people like Shmuley just spit on Orthodox Jews and scream in their face, "You're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Semitic." So who do you think is going to also get arrested? When I say, hey, we shouldn't arrest those Jews, guess who's also going to get arrested? I'm going to get arrested. You're going to get arrested for saying maybe we shouldn't just paint this as a blanket issue, because it's not. But that's ultimately what's going to probably happen. So that's why I'm opposed to this anti-Israel movement, because you know who runs it? Israel runs it. Let's listen to Benjamin Netanyahu talking about how he's actually the real president.
I spoke yesterday with Vice President J.D. Vance. He called me from his plane on the way back from Washington. He reported to me in detail, as the people of this administration do every day, on the development of the negotiations.
Now you might think, well, it's normal to talk to your, quote, allies about what's happening with negotiations, as if Jared Kushner isn't talking to Netanyahu. He used to stay at his house. I don't think that Jared Kushner's not in contact with Benjamin Netanyahu. Jared Kushner's the negotiator. He's not talking to Netanyahu about this. This is all part of the script too. And it's another one of those shows of force, an intimidation factor. Netanyahu says, they report to me, which I'm pretty sure it kind of goes like this. Trump goes into Venezuela. He doesn't ask Congress. He talks to the oil companies first. We go into Iran. We don't ask Congress. Instead, we talk to the military industrial complex and the defense contractors. We're not really negotiating with anybody. This is Netanyahu saying, well, the vice president reports to me. He's my bitch. That's the impression I get from it. He's my bitch. And Netanyahu's right. It is his bitch. Let's listen to some Japanese television. I know that you can't understand what they're saying, but there's translations. And for the record, I made sure that I don't know if the translations are some things you can't, directly one for one translate, but the general translation is accurate. This is Japanese television. Take a listen to this. Here are the faces we can expect to see. First, on the American side, these are the people who have negotiated Special Envoy Witkoff, Kushner. And just so you think, okay, maybe Ryan's just making up the translation. Well, you can hear him say Witkoff and Kushner. Trump's son-in-law. On the other hand, we have Vice President Vance, who is said to have opposed intervention in Iran. On the Iranians, I love Japanese TV kind of sets us up like a street fighter. Commanders of the Revolutionary Guard, Foreign Minister. Okay, now regarding the very basic question, another one of the newscasters asks. This might be a very basic question, and this Japanese man couldn't be any more correct about that. But if you know, could you please explain this Kushner guy who's on the American delegation? What authority does he have? What exactly is his position? Is he there simply as a representative of the Trump family? That's honestly how it looks. Yeah, probably for business deals like, the Gaza project, but this is in Iran, which they've already said they're going to destroy it and rebuild it like Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. So that's the first logical question. And besides, he's Jewish, right? When it comes to negotiations with Iran, I feel like he's the kind of person who shouldn't even be there. Yet he's participating in the position of son-in-law. I've always wondered what this guy really is. Well, he's the Antichrist, or at least a candidate for the possession, the spirit of the Antichrist. Here's Japanese TV, just like, hold on a second. So basically what you have here is a holy war. You've got Persians, Muslims, Christians, and Jews. And you have people with a special vested interest, not in America, but in business dealings with the U.S. president that they've already worked out in Gaza. And you have a guy who is literally a representative of a foreign country that has every intention of preventing the conflict from ending, and he's the negotiator? And furthermore, hold on a moment, this guy's also Jewish, and it's the Jews who don't want the war to stop. How are they letting this guy negotiate? Which is something I've been pointing out for years now. Why are they letting the Kushner anywhere near the White House? Why are they letting this guy do the negotiations? I mean, it is the proverbial letting the fox into the henhouse. This is Japanese TV. Why is a Jew negotiating over a holy war? He's got a vested interest in keeping it going to slaughter his enemies. It's crazy. Listen, literally every country in the world is aware of this. Literally every government in the world is aware of this. I mean, our government, America, the United States, we're even aware of this. We just don't want to say anything because the Jews run the courts, the media, the social media, and everything else in between. And yes, I mean Jews. None of this Israel Zion. It's not a Zionist-occupied government. It's a Jewish-occupied government. And even Jews that speak out against it, including Iranian Jews, guess what happens to the Iranian Jews? The Israelis say, we're going to kill you too. So you see how that affects everybody? You see how it affects Jews as much as it affects Christians and atheists? And when I say maybe we shouldn't kill Iranian Jews, somehow that still makes me anti-Semitic. And on top of that, if I say I don't support it, well, according to the U.S. government, not supporting Israel and what they want is going to very quickly become, quite literally, illegal. And I don't mean that figuratively. I mean that literally. It's going to very soon become illegal. Here is Randy, obese Jew Fine. H.R. 6186, the No Anti-Semitism in Education Act. This has now been introduced. It's not passed the House yet. Introduced to Congress. Take a look at this. Look at this bill. And you might say, well, it's just a bill. It's been introduced. Nothing's happened yet. Yeah, but there's another one that's worse than this that already has passed, and it's going to the Senate. What is this? The No Anti-Semitism in Education Act. Okay, let's take a look at what it says. This act may be cited as the No Anti-Semitism in Education Act, which, funny enough, when Ron DeSantis was an actual leader and not a cuck, Ron DeSantis made it with the state Congress, made it a law reforming the education to educate the public about communism, who ran communism, and what communism and Bolshevism did to the Russians, slaughtering tens of millions of Christians. They got a hold of Ron DeSantis, and now they're trying to change that so that if you teach that the communists were mostly Jews who slaughtered Christians and everybody else, that's anti-Semitic. So in order to receive federal funds, you're going to have to abide by this. If this law passes, abide by this new bill, abide by this law. And what does it do? Well, what's anti-Semitism? It means a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. It's just ridiculous. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jews or non-Jewish individuals. So even if you have an issue with non-Jews, it's still anti-Semitism, or their property, or towards the Jewish community, institutions, and religious facilities. So like you can ban the Quran and mosques, but not synagogues. It includes this. This is what the term includes. Calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews, often in the name of radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. I have never even heard a skinhead argue for the extermination of Jews. I've never even read a single document where the Nazis called for the extermination of Jews. Show it to me. I've never read one. I've read the Wannsee Conference minutes, and they talk about a plan of deportation, or they had another term for it, the final solution, which they've redefined that term to make you think it's an extermination policy. It wasn't. Go read the minutes. It literally isn't in there. There's nothing about extermination. Must have been a secret code, right? Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, especially but not exclusively, allegations regarding the myth. So even if you talk about the myth of it, about a world Jewish conspiracy, or a world Jewish conspiracy, or a Jews controlling the media, which they do, and the economy. I mean, literally, they're putting into place restrictions. I'm reading it directly from the bill. They're putting into place they want to put into place restrictions, which would say that you can't say Howard Lutnick is like one of the top leading economic heads. You can't say that Larry Ellison runs CBS and TikTok, but they do. That would be anti-Semitic. You can't say they have any pull in the government, even though Stephen Miller does, even though J.D. Vance's assistant or his main handler, also Jewish. Trump's former campaign manager, a registered Israeli agent. That's anti-Semitic. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a Jewish person or group, Israel, or for acts committed by a non-Jewish individual. I love how they include that in there. This is an interesting one because, again, we can claim that the Muslims are responsible for everything. The Arabs are responsible for everything. And just simply based on the First Amendment, if you can accuse the Muslims of being responsible for all of this, then I have a duty to accuse the Jews of equally having that same responsibility. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. So basically what the laws are in Germany, but now in the U.S., where you can't question anything. I can't even read the Red Cross reports because those are anti-Semitic. accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel, or literally the person writing this wants to make illegal the fact that people are pointing out that he's more loyal to a foreign country. And he wants to make that illegal because it's anti-Semitic to point out the truth. Demonizing Israel by using the symbols and images associated with classical anti-Semitism to characterize Israel or Israelis, drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis, or blaming Israel for all interreligious or political tensions when they're literally behind it. The thing about this that I disagree with, though, is the Israelis are not like the Nazis, because the Nazis never set up extermination camps. The Israelis are. They're calling them moral camps. The Nazis set up prisoner of war camps, prison camps, and work camps. The Soviets set up extermination centers, and then they blame the Germans for their crimes. Demonizing Israel by saying that they're kind of like the Nazis. Well, they're like the caricature of the Nazis, but they're actually worse than even the caricature. So I guess that belief for me wouldn't be anti-Semitic. I think that they're worse. Applying a double standard to Israel by requiring behavior of Israel that is not expected or demanded of any other democratic country, or focusing peace or human rights investigations only on Israel, which is just a ludicrous thing to say, because there's always investigations, some international group or court, some liberal left-leaning group, into human rights violations, whether it's in Africa or across the Middle East. But to do any investigation into Israel, that's anti-Semitic. Delegitimizing Israel by denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, i.e. to do whatever they want, and denying Israel the right to exist. And then, because legally, I think that the Constitution is still in place, the term anti-Semitism, Randy Fine says, does not include criticism of Israel that is similar to criticism toward any other country. And yet, every line before this just said that that's the definition of anti-Semitism. So what is this bill that I'm looking at here? And if you think, well, that's just some stupid thing Randy Fine introduced. Well, no, I think it's a little bit more than that, because here's the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, H.R. 6090, which already passed the Congress, the House. And this would criminalize Christianity. Why? How? Because the act to provide for the consideration of a definition of anti-Semitism set forth by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. The act embraces the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which would make the Bible illegal. If you don't believe me, type in IHRA, anti-Semitism definition, and let's go to that definition now, the IHRA, and we'll pull up how they define the term anti-Semitism. I'll tell you now, as we wait for verification from the Holocaust Remembrance website. Working definition of anti-Semitism. Here are, if you want to pause this, go read this. Here are all of the different statements. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing. Well, hold on a second. Isn't that exactly what Randy Fine's bill said? It's almost verbatim. Oh, no, look. It's the same thing. Now, hold on a second. You're telling me that Randy Fine just copied and pasted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism into a bill and submitted it? That's the same thing. Oh, wait a minute. Here's another one. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing. Oh, wait a minute. Literally, verbatim. Randy Fine just copied and pasted the anti-Semitism definition from the IHRA website and said, this is the bill. And it's a smaller version of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. You want to see how it criminalizes Christianity? There it is. Using the symbols and images associated with classical anti-Semitism, claims of Jews killing Jesus, or blood libel, which would make the Bible illegal in the United States, because the Bible says that the Pharisees killed Jesus. And I'm not even a Christian. And the Jews do engage in blood sacrifice. We've watched it in Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, and we've also watched it in 80% of newborn babies having their genitals mutilated in the United States, which, by the way, after they mutilate the genitals and affect the underside of the penis where pleasure centers are, and they cut those, literally cut them off, then they tell you, actually, listen, actually, the G spot for men is up your butthole. So stick some fingers and some schmooly butt plugs up your ass, and that's how you get the pleasure. Of course, turning people into homosexuals. That's what the Jews do because they reject heterosexuality. That's why Israel and Tel Aviv is the gay capital and the pedophile capital of the world. You reject the natural order of things. So these things are also becoming laws. It's not just a talking point. But hey, it's okay because the president of the United States on Truth Social posted this. There's a discussion over FISA. Remember FISA, which was such a controversial thing at first. Now it's like, oh, it's okay. We can have FISA. Section 702, reform or sunset. Congress recently reauthorized and expanded Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, the government's sweeping and controversial warrantless surveillance authority, until April of this year, which is this month. So the president commented on that. And I'm not going to read you everything that he said. You can pause and read it for yourself, or I'm sure you can find this pretty easily online. Type in President Trump, FISA, Truth Social. Listen to what the president said. While parts of FISA were illegally and unfortunately used against me in the Democrats' disgraceful witch hunt and attack in... Hold on a second. I blew it up too big there for a second. Witch hunt and attack in the Russia hoax, and perhaps would be used against me in the future, I am willing to risk the giving up of my rights and privileges as a citizen for our great military and country. Oh, look, so just like putting your fingers up your ass is homosexual onboarding pushed by Jews, and just like the abolition of the First Amendment is being done through people like Nick Fuentes in the name of fighting against Israel, which is ultimately their goal, to eliminate the First Amendment so you can't criticize them. So, you know, when you watch that Christian movie, Left Behind, and the people were asking folks on the street, you believe in Jesus? And you said yes, and they cut your head off. Well, funny thing is, the people asking that question were Jews. If you get your head cut off, it's because a Jew was upset that you believed in the divinity of Jesus and not in their divinity as the chosen people of God. Turns out you can see that movie with a new light. It's all Jewish Christian propaganda, but then you realize, wait, the people cutting people's heads off are the ones that are behind these bills that want to make Christianity illegal in the United States. Case in point, H.R. 6090, which has already passed Congress. And the president's willing to risk giving up his rights and privileges as a citizen for our great military and country. I don't even know. I don't think you could find a dictator and an emperor. I don't think you could find any leader who is this brazen about it. I mean, we used to at least be told, like, we're Americans and they hate our freedom. That's why they attacked us, and we have freedom and liberty and the rights of. And then suddenly now the president's even like, well, it's okay. We can just give up all of our rights because the Israelis want us to. That's what that says. Because who do you think's behind FISA? Who do you think's behind Palantir that the president is fully in support of? You know, Palantir, Vance has a mentor named Peter Thiel who started Palantir. He also helped start Rumble as well, by the way. It's free speech. Bullshit. And we can take a look at Tucker Carlson's letter to the president as well. Israeli government has a storied history of blackmailing U.S. presidents. Tucker must have read my book. Tucker, where the fuck have you been? That shit's been known since the 90s. Tucker just figured it out, though. Great. Really, Tucker just figured it out, so we should give him a pat on the back. He's the expert on it now because he just finally figured it out. I just really hate this. I really do. I also don't like this. I don't like that people hold a double standard for religious iconography, because you know those pictures of Obama as Jesus, that was blasphemous. But when Trump does it, as you can see on your screen right now, when he depicts himself as Jesus healing somebody who mysteriously looks like either Anthony Bourdain or Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, obviously, this is a fake one. The real one, I'd say he doesn't look as much like Jeffrey Epstein, but a little bit maybe. People also, I think there's like a condition called Epstein brain. I'm coining this where everybody's Epstein now. Everybody you see is Epstein. But this is the real one that President Trump posted. Kind of, I guess, sort of maybe. It looks more like Jon Stewart, actually, I think. But President Trump looks like Jesus. That's what people are saying. All right. But then you look at this, and I don't, I'm reminded of Maria Abramovic. Remember, Maria, I played this on the show. I played this on Ground Zero before. Some of the Ground Zero audience did not like this, but let's listen to Maria Abramovic, the spirit cooking black witch, who's also, I believe, an ambassador to Ukraine so they can get the kids. Here's Maria Abramovic talking about the president.
The Trump is the best thing happened ever to us, because she believed, not her, but the entire population of this Nordic magician, that he is the magician of the highest order, that he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order. It's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down.
Yeah, it's turning things into an episode of The Secret Teachings. Trump, in these robes, is Jesus, but he's also the magician. He is the magician on the tarot card. And we could talk about, if you read my book, Occult Arcana, you get a whole section on tarot cards and the meanings behind the specific symbols. Obviously, every tarot card is different. We're talking specifically here about the Rider-Waite deck. Here's the magician. Now, that mysteriously looks like the exact same imagery. White robes, a red sash, and divinity above your head. Infinity. In the tarot card, divinity, infinity above Trump's head in the actual AI image. Some people also did a little bit of digging on this, and they found that the image that you see in the background there of what appears to be some kind of like angelic creature with wings comes from a book about Baal. Wow, I would never have expected that. Reportedly, that's where the image comes. It's kind of like Corey Goode and his Blue Chickens, and he stole that from a book. And he claimed that he's the one that talked to the Blue Chickens, and he just stole it from some other woman. Couldn't even make up his own scam. Had to steal it from somebody else. It's kind of the same thing happening here. I believe the book is called The Last Pull. And it's supposed to be, at least in reference to, our good friend, Baal. It's amazing. The comparison is pretty similar. I'm sure that's also a coincidence. I'm sure the Mexicans and the Iranians and a bunch of other countries, I think the Pakistanis too, pretty much anybody in the world who's not a part of this blood cult are burning statues of Baal all over the world because they know that's the tribal deity that the Israelis call God. Trump is a magician, whether he realizes it or not. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about it, because it's fun. It's trolling. I mean, I remember being told growing up as a Christian that that's kind of what the Antichrist folks would do. They'd be like, come on, the porn is fun. Come on, the alcohol is fun. Come on, it's just a joke.
Did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support.
Oh, yeah, because the Red Cross, they wear red sashes over white robes like the tarot magician.
And Only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, "How did they come up with that?" It's supposed to be me as a doctor.
That's a doctor. Listen, I don't spend a lot of time around hospitals, but last time I checked, doctors don't wear red sashes over white robes. I mean, maybe some kind of medical device over the white robes, but usually they don't wear red sashes. And then also, you got to think about this from another point of view. Maybe it's not Jesus. Maybe it isn't meant to mock Jesus. Maybe it is meant to be the magician. And they tell you it's about Jesus so you can argue and fight about it. And really, it's like what Marie Abramovic said, to create conflict and disorder. And that's exactly what the image does.
Nordic magician, that he is the magician of the highest order, that he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order.
Oh, no. Sounds just like what Marie Abramovic, the magician, said. Do I have to remind you, if we go to the Bible, which I know it's anti-Semitic, so I apologize for referencing the Bible. The Quran is also anti-Semitic, and so is pretty much every other book that's not Jewish. It doesn't belong to you. You get killed in the Talmud for having possession of the first few books of the Bible. They didn't give it to you. They gave it to the Jews only. But if we go to the Bible, type in Bible, servant, right ear, cut, verses. Remember this? Remember the verses in the Bible? It's like Luke, John, Matthew, where the servant has their right ear cut. Remember what happened in Butler, PA, where the president had his right ear cut? At least it appeared to be so. An assassination attempt. Oh no, look at this. The president basically reenacted a ritual from the Bible. Oh no, look at this. And also, it just so happens to be, just conveniently, coincidentally, that MAGA in the Church of Satan is the highest degree that you can achieve. MAGA. Oh no. Would you look at that? MAGA, the 5th degree. Wow. I'm sure that's all a coincidence. And also, did you know that in the 1990s, in relation to Jonathan Pollard was part of an Israeli spy network. He's just the one that got caught. And Jonathan Pollard, as part of that spy network, was part of something that was referred to as MAGA. The Israeli spy network in the United States was called MAGA. Now, quite frankly, when you see something that is arguably a staged event or partially staged event, I don't necessarily think it was staged per se. I think it was a threat that you do what we tell you to do or we'll kill you. That was the turning point as far as I'm concerned. Not the turning point USA, but the other turning point in the direction of Trump's presidency and his total commitment to Israel. But I feel like, when your right ear's being cut and you made your whole presidency about Jesus and serving Israel, and then that's in the Bible, the right ear of the servant is cut open to signify submission. I just feel like when you have all this stuff, there's more than just politics going on here. When you have Marie Abramovic saying, yeah, he's a magician of the highest order, and he's there to sow confusion, to bring about a new order. And then you have the president essentially lying about what he posted in regard to this image. It's not Jesus. I'm a doctor. Talk about confusion, because at the very least, if it's not Jesus, it's probably the magician in the tarot card. Further confirming what Marie Abramovic had said. And of course, she was a big part of this underlying occult network that operates in the US and worldwide. Just a more ritualistic version of what Epstein was. One's more ritualistic, one's more of a blackmail operation. And then, of course, the president gets his right ear cut, and that's just like we read in several books of the Bible, submission to the master. And of course, the master in this case symbolically could be Netanyahu as much as it could be Israel as a country, as much as it could just be general Jews that are around the president, which is pretty much the entire administration, controlled by or influenced by or brainwashed in their Christian Zionists. Obviously, when you see all this, you have to think, unless you are intending to consciously deceive yourself, that something else is happening here. And then when you add on other little pieces of information like the Church of Satan, the highest degree is MAGA. And then when you add on the fact that the spy network in the United States connected to Jonathan Pollard, spying for Israel, by the way, Jonathan Pollard, who says never out a Jew, especially in front of the Goyim, even if they've committed crimes, never out a Jew. They asked me and I said never. I would never tell you the truth about what the other Jews have done to this country. And then you find out that spy network was actually called MAGA. That spy network of Israelis was referred to as MAGA. You don't believe me? You think I'm making it up? You think I'm faking that piece of information? Well, by now you know that I would never do that. But just so we're clear, just so that you can see, here is a Time magazine article, The Hunt for a Mole. This is in 1997. Here's Jonathan Pollard, and magically, a senior U.S. official codenamed MAGA, who may be passing on U.S. diplomatic intelligence. Let me put it real clear for you. I'm going to play some of these Iranian Lego propaganda videos for you in a moment because they're hilarious, but they're also really educational. And in one of these videos, it's really great. They say that Americans better recognize, and recognize quickly, that ultimately what is going to happen is that once the Israelis have everything they want, once they have absolute and total control and power, and they expand via the Greater Israel Project, the final war that they're going to fight is against the United States of America. That's why you have the president of the World Jewish Congress warning there's a second Holocaust coming. Because here's what's going to happen. As Americans turn against Israel, and this is happening in real time according to Gallup, according to Pew Research, Americans are turning against Israel. And it's happening faster and faster and faster. And as Americans turn against Israel, of course, by definition, and soon under legal definition, specifically under the IHRA, you will be classified as an anti-Semite, someone who is trying to murder the Jews, and America as a country is going to be painted just like Russia was in the 1800s and early 1900s before the Bolshevik Revolution, and just like Germany was throughout the 20s, and then, of course, after the rebellion and the rise of Nazism throughout the 30s. That's what's going to happen. No matter how much money, how much treasure, how much blood, how many lives have been sacrificed on the altar of Baal, on the altar of Jewish supremacy, Zionism, Israel, and this death cult, no matter how many times Christians have looked the other way while they had their Savior defiled in Hollywood or in the media in any other form or fashion, no matter how many times we just looked the other way while Israel bombed our own people, killed our own people, raped our children, etc., we are still going to be the victim of Israel's final war. Israel's final war will be against the United States. It's already ongoing. And they might not have to even drop any bombs because they can undermine us almost wholly and completely like they did in the Weimar years of Germany. The communist revolution failed in Germany. The Freikorps put it down from World War I. Those soldiers that were left over from that war, they stopped the physical violent uprising. So they went underground and they infiltrated all the schools and the media. When the Nazis took control of all of that, they said, look, Hitler took control. He's a tyrant. Well, he actually just took control of it back from the people that took control of it and tried to undermine the entire country and culture and civilization. This is very similar to what happened in Egypt. Oh, the Egyptians, they enslaved the Jews. Well, you know, it's funny you say that because it turns out that what really happened was that the Jews marched into Egypt and tried to enslave the Egyptians. That's what it appears to have happened. And then when the Egyptians said, yeah, see, we're not going to allow that. And then they enslaved what we call Jews. Oh my God, they attacked us, they enslaved us, but we also built the pyramids. And it turns out that's a lie too. Jews did not build the pyramids. I don't think Egyptians even built the pyramids. And by pyramids, what do I mean? I mean the three main pyramids of Giza. But of course, all the other dilapidated pyramids, as people probably built that. And which is why it's ironic, because they say, well, the Jews were tortured and enslaved and beaten and they were hungry, but they also were geniuses who built the greatest structure that the world has ever seen, arguably. And then you find out, well, actually, it was people that were well-fed and treated with respect, and they weren't Jews, and they were very, very skilled architects and designers. That's the official narrative now. So it wasn't a bunch of Jewish slaves. And then you find out that the pyramid officially, historically, like officially, the mainstream narrative was built like thousands of years before the Jews were enslaved. And then you find out on top of that, that if the Jews did actually build anything, because they certainly were put to work by the Egyptians, they built the pyramids that were dilapidated and fell apart. See, it's not just all about politics. It's also about ancient history. It's also about the pyramids of Egypt, which are in a lot of ways pretty occult to a lot of the general public. Here, have a look at this. Here's a Gallup poll. Israelis no longer ahead in Americans' Middle East sympathies. February 27th, 2026. You can see the chart here from Gallup. Israeli support, cratering. Palestinian support, skyrocketing. Here's another one. This is Pew Research, just a few days ago. April 7th, 2026. Negative views of Israel, Netanyahu continue to rise among Americans, especially young people. Americans' views on Israel, Netanyahu have turned more negative, very similar to the views on Israel and Palestine. Look at this. Unfavorable, very or somewhat, skyrocketing, and plummeting. Americans do not trust Israel. They do not trust Netanyahu. And these are just the people that are willing to say it out loud when they're polled. These are just the people that are willing to potentially risk being, well, whatever happens to people that have an unfavorable view of Israel. 60% of American adults have an unfavorable view of Israel. Those are just the people that acknowledge it. I guarantee you it's closer to 80-something to 90%. It's a few radical Christian, probably older people who are living on bread and milk and eggs, and they watch Fox News. That's really about all that's left. And of course, a few Jewish billionaire liberal type Americans that, of course, support them. That's about it. And so as this trend continues, of course, if you don't like Israel, you're an anti-Semite. We just looked at the definitions of those terms, IHRA definition. So this means America is becoming more anti-Semitic. There's another Holocaust coming. No matter what we've done for these people, they are going to bring us to the brink of destruction because it's not enough. I saw this Megyn Kelly clip about the Trump image with Jesus. I saw this other story about, I saw this on InfoWars. Coming apart at the seams, Donald Trump can't afford to alienate America's Catholics too. I saw this story from Rolling Stone. Trump and the Catholic Church fight a law requiring clergy to report child abuse. Yeah, that would be Pam Bondi, who's been replaced by the Jew Lee Zeldin. Or Zelda, or L. Zeldin, or whatever his name is. You notice that we talked about this on the show. Catholics, how many Catholics does it take to get to the center of banning Christianity? They'll start with the Catholics. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The United States of America has started the purge against official purge, not just the mocking, but the official purge at a federal level against Christianity. But I know Christians don't consider Catholics to be Christians, so it's okay. Come for them. Don't say anything. No big deal. But they'll eventually come for you and cut your head off too. That's fine. And then you have Pastor John Hagee recently saying that Jesus is going to return as a Jewish rabbi. What scripture is this fat slob reading? Because again, I'm not a Christian, and I'm pretty sure there's nothing anywhere. I've never read anything in any religious text that Jesus returns as a Jewish rabbi. He literally died because of Jewish rabbis. He literally sacrificed himself on the cross for Jewish rabbis because of Jewish rabbis. The Romans literally told the Jews, we don't find anything wrong with this guy. He hasn't broken any of our laws. And the Jews said, put his blood on our children. We hate him. Kill him. I'm not even a Christian, and I know that. But no, John Hagee says that he's going to come back as a
patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob,
Jewish
were all
Messiah.
Jewish people. The prophets Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, all Jews, not a Baptist in the bunch. The first family of Christianity, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, Jewish. Jesus kept the law of Moses. Jesus said, do not think that I've come to destroy the law, but to fulfill the law. He celebrated his bar mitzvah at the age of 13. He wore a prayer shawl from that day until the day he died. He
I'm going to have to play the music in the background.
was buried in that prayer shawl. He's going to return to the earth in the second coming as a Jew. How do you know that? Because the book of Revelation says, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah.
Yeah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. That couldn't be like, I don't know, a metaphor. Man, we really need educational classes in this country to teach people what metaphors are. The United States of America is going to be the final domino to fall. The final country that Israel is going to target. And then we're going to slip into decades or centuries of Russian-style, Bolshevik-style tyranny if they get their way. And then the United States of America will be burdened with all the horrors of the new Holocaust, which won't actually be a Holocaust, while they actually commit Holocaust against the Lebanese and the Syrians and the Iraqis, Afghanis, and the Yemens or Yemites or whatever they call them, the Libyans, and of course the Iranians, and of course any other country that dares to disagree. I won't be surprised if sooner than later Japan doesn't end up in the crosshairs of this cabal of cultists, because they changed the algorithm on X. Did you hear this? And now Japanese content is not showing up on X. Did you hear about this? I'm serious. I'm not joking. I did a show in this last year. Now that they've changed the algorithm, Japanese content is not showing up on X. People that were following Japanese accounts. And I was thinking about that, one, because I had covered it pretty extensively long before it was ever stated. People noticed it. But I started thinking, why? Why would this be the case? And I think the reason is because Japan is not a friend of Israel. Japan refused to engage in this conflict with Iran. Anime, that's right, anime, like the cartoons, like the drawings, the anime is considered, according to Israelis, according to Jews, and according to some Christians, a threat to America. That's right, anime is a threat. Not the Jewish porn industry, not the disgusting, repulsive filth that Jews pump out of the porn industry in Hollywood, but anime is repulsive. Anime is a threat. But the thing is, it actually is, because it's always pushed the boundaries of censorship. And when you're trying to censor people's ability to communicate and to be artistic and to speak, you have to ban something that's so popular and so raw like anime. And it's also probably because On average, most Asians in general, but Japanese people, I'm pretty sure, just like any other Asians, don't really give a damn about Israel. And unlike Korea, which is 20-something, South Korea is 20-something% Christian, there aren't really any Christians here. And nobody walks around obsessed with Jews or obsessed with Israel or obsessed with the Ark of the Covenant or Abraham or the Ten Commandments. And yet it's a much more respectable, peaceful society than any part of the Middle East, any part of the land of Jesus, any part of the United States that prides itself on being a Jesus-driven country. Why is that? And arguably Portugal, which has a slightly larger Christian population. Is it Portugal? No, not Portugal, Singapore. Singapore has a much larger Christian population than Japan does. It's like 20%. But Singapore is the same way. It's primarily not Christian, and it's arguably safer and cleaner than even Japan is. So it doesn't look like you need Abraham. Abraham can take a fucking hike. It doesn't look like you need the 10 Commandments. You don't need the 10 Commandments to tell you not to kill people. And if a country can figure all that out without Jews and without the 10 Commandments and without Jesus, well, they're obviously a threat because they're working on something that doesn't require a control mechanism like this. So that's probably another reason that Japan is slated for destruction. That's why Japan was destroyed in the Second World War as well. My favorite part of World War II, I do have a favorite part. It was when the Germans called up the Japanese and said, hey, these Jews are a nuisance. You guys want to do something about this? The Japanese said, no, we're okay. And the Germans said, no, you're really going to want to do something about this because these people are parasites and they're going to destroy your country too if you don't put in some safeguards against it. The Japanese said, send us what you have. We'll take a look at it. It's a true story. And the Japanese took a look at it. And they said, okay, well, in typical Japanese fashion, we're going to find ways to, figure things out that other people can't figure out. And so the Japanese said, well, what you're telling us is that the Jews are really good at making money, right? And the Germans said, yes, they're pretty good at making money. Undermining economies are pretty good at making money. And the Japanese said, okay, so what if we just took them and we forced them to make us money? Fucking genius. They called it the Fugu Plan. In the 1930s, Japan launched the Fugu Plan to draw in tens of thousands of Jewish refugees. While the Germans were trying to kick them out, the Japanese said, no, you can come to Japan. You're good at making money, aren't you? Go over there in that tent in that little city that we set up for you and make us some money. The Japanese actually, talk about innovation, had a plan to bring the Jews to Japan so they could profit from their economic prowess. That is fucking brilliant. Anyway, that amongst other things, such as I can buy Hitler manga. I have it somewhere here on my bookshelf. I can buy Hitler manga at anywhere. 7-Eleven. So that's another reason that Japan is slated for destruction, which is another thing that's also mentioned in some of these Iranian Lego videos that I'm going to play you now. Let's take a listen to the first one here. I've got a whole list of them. However, before we do that, let's pause for just a moment. Go back to the chat, and I'll acknowledge that. We have a lot of new listeners in the chat tonight. This show's a little different than most. I don't do super chats, although I think I was approved for that, but I don't want to give YouTube 30%. So if you want to support the show, this show is a Monday through Friday broadcast. What you're listening to now and what you're watching now is simply a specialty thing that I provide for you for being supporters of the show and listeners. It also gives us a way to more directly interact. We'll take calls here very soon, too, very shortly. So stick around for that. I'll put the link in the chat to call in. It's totally free. tstradio.info, rdgable at yahoo.com is the email. Please get a copy of one of my books like Protocols of Goyim, my new book. Please support the show by subscribing to the advertisement-free archive. You can do all of that on the website. It's very simple. If you hear advertisements throughout the show, those ads support us. They keep us on air. If you don't like them, which who does, that's why you can subscribe to the archive. If you're listening and you don't hear any ads, that's because you're either on groundzeroplus.com or you are a subscriber already, which if you are, I want to thank you for supporting the show. Protocols of Goyim, and also Occult Arcana is another book that, if you're interested in tonight's subject, you should get that book and read it, because it will give you, has nothing to do really with tonight's topic, but it'll explain to you more of the magical occult side of things. That's tstradio.info, tstradio.info. All right, let's see what we have going on in the chat. Oh, yes, Dark Knight Cowboy. Good. I'm glad that you brought this up, because I should play this before I play the Iran Lego videos. I have a variety of clips here going back to what we were talking about in regard to the Randy Fine law and the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. I have a whole bunch of clips here. One of them is Ben Shapiro, who's got like, I think Ben Shapiro decided to go with the, what's that guy's name in Hawaii? I'm blanking on his name. The exopolitical guy, Michael Salla. I think Ben Shapiro has decided to go with the Michael Salla eyebrow look. That Ben Shapiro is calling for, well, you'll listen, you'll hear it. Let me just play it for you. Here it is.
Of Jesus. I also believe, as an Orthodox Jew, that Judaism is not the only path to heaven. Judaism as a religion is not exclusive, meaning that as long as people who are not Jewish follow 7 basic Noahide laws, and this includes Christians and Muslims, they too have a share in the world to come. And those 7 basic laws are things like no blasphemy, don't commit sexual sins, set up a court of law, make sure that you're not eating flesh from a living animal, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny that they say that, because they're behind all of that stuff. But nevertheless, the point is, Noahide laws have been proposed by rabbis to replace the U.S. Constitution. They've been encouraging Trump since 2016 to just abolish the Constitution and deploy the Noahide laws. We'll get there. Here's Randy Fine explaining what his, this was several months ago, explaining what his bill's all about. This is only coming through one headphone. I apologize for that. Maybe in the uploaded version of the show, it'll sound okay, because I'll go back and I'll add the other line in. I'm not sure why it's only one headphone, but that's the video I found.
Holding people accountable without violating their free speech.
Sure. And again, I would remind you that there's no First Amendment right to conduct. There's a First Amendment right to speech. And the things that we're targeting in the bill are not speech. Again, if someone wants to stand across the street from my house and wave a sign on the sidewalk, they have every right to do that. And this bill won't have anything to do with that. But when it veers into conduct, and so the way we're going to approach this is through a hate crime kicker. So if you graffiti a building, it is a crime now.
Yep, and who graffitis buildings? Usually it's Jews that draw swastikas.
But if your motivation is hate, it will be a 3rd-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in prison.
How do you define what that is? Because some fat Jew like Randy Fine decides it for you.
If you want to litter, it's a crime right now. But if you litter and if your motivation is a hate crime, it will be a 3rd-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in jail. It is a crime right now to hang banners from an interstate. For obvious reasons, we don't want to distract drivers. But if you do that and you have a hate crime, a hate motivation, it will be a 3rd-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in jail.
Hate motivations, all defined by the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. I think Dave Chappelle put it best.
Of perception. If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and you should never speak about it.
Never speak about that shit. All right, let's go to the Lego videos as we also go back to the chat here. I'll pull that up. We've got about 50 minutes left on the show here tonight, the 3-hour Friday special. I have not been paying attention much to the chat, so I apologize for that. Let me scroll back up through here and see what we have. If anything particularly interesting that I want to bring up here on the screen. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and throw them up there. We'll play some of these Lego videos in a moment, and then I will take some calls. I'm not going to read this one out loud, but I'll put it up on the screen. Oh, that's good. Okay, I'll read it. Circumcision was the only way the Jews could get any protein in the middle of the desert. Well, that and drinking the blood of children, so save the children. All right, Dark Knight Cowboy said the military that is going to come door in maybe door to door, and Trump's martial law is going to be the Jews. No self-respecting U.S. citizen military member has to know that's the end of America. Well, it is. They're already showing up at people's houses in Texas. What did you post online? You said something about Israel we didn't like. We have to come and check it out. You said you disagree with the war. That means you're violent. Yes, Alex in the chat. Abraham can take a hike. Fuck him. Don't give a shit about Abraham. And guess what? Half the world doesn't either. What else do we have in the chat? Oh, we have one person who doesn't like what I'm saying. That's okay. I hope actually we have more of those. You shouldn't agree with everything I'm saying. Ladies and gentlemen, this idiot Ryan just blocked me from his channel, so I'm going to shut his channel down. How you like me now? I'm not sure how I don't think I blocked you from anything. Don't even know who you are. I guess probably a Jew. There's always one of them in the chat. There's always one of them that has to justify what I'm saying and then say that they're going to make it illegal to prove what they're doing is what they're doing. So that's same thing with Larry Ellison and same thing with Randy Fine. Some other questions here that are more personal. I'll skip over that. I don't want to put that on the screen. Thank you, Tim Curley, for putting the book into the chat, Protocols of Goyim. I appreciate that. People talking about the Noahide laws. Also, Tim, thank you for putting Occult Arcana in there. Let's see what else we have here. I'm scrolling down through the chat. I'm glad that most of you know that this is more of a presentation show, and I don't go to the chat very often, so I don't see anything particularly interesting. Here's Arian, Luciferian. The Noahide laws are not that different from the Ten Commandments, but it's all the other unwritten stuff that comes with it when Jewish law replaces existing law. Similar issue with Sharia law. Well, it's funny you bring Sharia law up because they're telling you it's Sharia law, Sharia law, Sharia law, Sharia law, when actually it's the Noahide laws, but they want you focused on the Muslims when it's actually the Jews that are doing it, not the Muslims. Muslims are not a threat to the United States. Israel, on the other hand, is. All right, I think that's good for now. I'll put the call-in number in the chat. If you'd like to call into the show, make sure that you have your camera off and make sure that you are in a relatively quiet position, a relatively quiet place. And I'd say that give us like 20 to 30 minutes here and we'll start taking some calls. Let's play some of these Lego videos. The Iranian government has created pretty amazing propaganda. While the U.S. government is using clips of football games cut with bombs killing children, the Israelis just don't even really honestly use propaganda. They're just like, yeah, we're chosen, so what are you going to do about it? The Iranians are using Lego videos and comedy to educate American citizens and to point out that ultimately in the end, once they kill us, they'll kill you too. Let's listen to this Lego video from Iran. There's also a bunch of these videos that other people have put together that are not from Iran, but they're still really good. So we'll maybe play some of those as well. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to open up another share screen because there's too many tabs open in that one. So, yes, we'll open this one up. Here we go. We'll go back to the beginning. All right, let's listen and watch one of these Lego videos. They're pretty great. They're really educational.
Joe Kent said it clear. Stop Israel's hand. They're sitting in your war room. They're running your land. Vance on the phone with Bibi during peace talks. Wow, while China's watching from the eastern rocks. You want zero enrichment? That's your red line. But Iran said no in 2009. 20 years committed, no bomb, no race. You just want a war to save Bibi's face. Israel calls the shots. You fall in line. American blood for Israeli wine. Israel calls the shots. You fall in line. American blood for Israeli wine. China sent a warning, military grade.
Don't
touch our ships.
Don't block our trade. We have deals with Iran. We have energy ties. The strait is still open for Chinese eyes. Dong Jun spoke, not a diplomat. A general with a message sharp and flat.
Come near our boat, you'll see the sign.
You thought you could bully, now you're out of time. Israel calls the shots, you fall in line. American blood for Israeli wine. Israel calls the shots, you fall in line. American blood for Israeli wine. Bernie Sanders called it genocide in Gaza. 500 million bombs, that's your donor's agenda. You won't feed your people, but you feed the war. Taxpayer money bleeding on the floor. Aluminum prices hit a 4-year high. Emirates plant damage, they're asking why. Forced to cancel contracts, force majeure. Your blockade is hurting everyone, that's for sure. Laura Blumenfeld said it clear as glass. The dog runs when you stand, that's the past. Khomeini knew it back in 79. America barks, but it won't cross the line. You let Israel drive, you're just in the back. Every peace talk fails, you're off track. China ships are passing, the strait is wide, while you're sinking slowly with nowhere to hide. Israel calls the shots, Israel calls the shots, Israel calls the shots, shots. Israel calls the shots, you fall in line. American blood for Israeli wine. Israel calls the shots, you fall in line. American blood for Israeli wine. So who's the dog now, Donald? You let the leash get pulled. Beijing standing, Tehran standing, and you?
It's so good. I'm writing my own bars here. Got all these lines. I might make my own song. That's Iranian propaganda. You want to see American propaganda? It's so terrible that I honestly don't even want to show it to you. I've showed it to you before. It's just literally NFL clips cut with bombs killing people. It's awful. That's one of, I think, dozens that they've released. And for the record, that's what the whole world thinks of this situation. That's what everybody thinks of this situation. That's what everybody sees this situation as. Because that's what it is. I don't really know who is it Tim Dillon? Who's the big fat guy who's kind of like a comedian? It was I forget what his name is. I think he put it pretty, I saw a clip of him commenting on one of these Iranian videos, and he said, we're not even winning this propaganda war. Our propaganda is so terrible that the Iranian propaganda is slaughtering ours. And I think the guy's name is Tim Dillon. He's right. He's right. We can't even win this war. We can't even defeat the Houthis, by the way. Did you ever look up that video? I mentioned it earlier on the show. We have to send troops. We have to send our boats around the tip of Africa. Yeah, we're really strong. We're really powerful. Meanwhile, we're fabricating evidence of our superiority, and that's all helped out by, Jewish media. Jackie said the Iranian propaganda is very popular with American audiences right now and more effective. It is, because it's also just blatantly true. I don't even really consider it propaganda. It's just like, honestly, frankly, if you replaced those lyrics with Chris Webby, you really wouldn't know if it was Chris Webby or if it was the Iranian government. I don't know if you know who Chris Webby is. I don't like all of his music, but Chris Webby does a series. He's a rapper I think he's from Connecticut. He does a series called Raw Thoughts. And kind of like, is it Tom McDonald, who I don't agree with everything he says, and he's been a big Trump person, and I don't really support that. But you listen to music, and when you listen to music, a lot can be conveyed in a song that you can't convey otherwise in, a speech. And you listen to some of these songs, like if you look up Chris Webby, Raw Thoughts, he had a great one that he released during the so-called pandemic. He's just released his newest one. And I don't know if I would get in trouble for playing the video of it. I give him all the credit, obviously. You can find his YouTube page for the Burbs, B-U-R-B-S. I'll show it to you here before I play it. That's his YouTube page. He does tours too. He's very, very popular. But let's listen to his music video, because this isn't Iranian propaganda. This is some kid who used to be a liberal and then kind of became a guy who just was like, he rejected all of it. Let's listen to a little bit Chris Webby's new video. Not Iranian propaganda. This is just some kid from Connecticut.
Go again.
Well, not a kid. He's a famous rapper.
Once upon a time in our rewritten history, 13 bloodlines rose to power wickedly. They came from ancient lands with depravity and vices like usury and rape and ritual sacrifices. They worshipped evil gods, but they kept the secrets hidden as they infiltrated and hijacked other religions. They conquered other countries and they printed all the money while they plotted on a plan for the control of everybody. And here we are now, still on the same path with the devil in the details. You could do the math. Only God's got the map with the one road back on the human racetrack. We passed the last lap. But your pedophiles and Illuminati puppets operating in the shadows like roaches evading justice, subliminally teaching the wicked ways to the public, whether we knew it or not. Now we're all a product of it. See, they desecrated nature and set fire to the wilderness, filled us with their poison and they wired us for sinfulness, stole our ancient knowledge and left us broken and ignorant, and stole our sons and daughters and fed on the stolen innocence. They groomed our behavior and turned us on our neighbors, took away our promise and offered us false saviors. But something's gotta give when you're ruled by the takers, and in the end, us and them will meet the same maker. So I dedicate the song to those who lost their life and paid the price to tell the truth for what they thought was right. Those who up against the odds answered for the call to fight. And now it's time that the fucking darkness is brought.
This is just the beginning of the song. It's like the intro.
Don't get distracted.
And then you're going to get the what sounds like Iranian propaganda now.
Name at the head of the monster now. So go and grab a slice of Pizzagate. John Podesta's here to serve you, eat your plate. Tony's pouring fresh adrenochrome. You really need to.
And he's got a whole list of Epstein files scrolling as he sings, as he raps.
Careful though, he'll take you paddle boarding if you tell his secrets. And stay away from his husband, she's meaner than he is. And Bill Gates is over there with the syringe and gloves, cause he likes to vaccinate the kids before he drinks their blood. And who's that chewing on a pineal gland? Oh, that's just Hillary with all that frazzle drip on her hand. That's red-handed. And there's Bill with jizz on his pants. Galena wipe the stains when they're playing from Israel land. So someone grab the spirit cooker if you looking for the gravy.
Me either, Jackie. I mean, a little bit, but not the general public.
Crazy. She's honestly a really nice lady. And look, it's Kevin Spacey right off the set of a movie. He shot in his basement with a child and George Clooney. Weinstein funded it. Spielberg directed it. And Bono made the music and sang at a kid's benefit. And George H.W. Bush is pulling the car up with every man in his family, even Barbara. Ellen's on the way from Diddy's house with Sean Carter. Cause here at Comet Ping Pong, the club is what you're part of. Oprah's on the way, but she'll be late. She's stuck in human traffic. We'll just have to film the sacrifice.
I love that line. She'll be late, but she's stuck in human traffic.
Don't be losing that shit. Where's Anthony Weiner's computer? I thought that Homa had it. Just relax. Take a nap with that guy in the Biden mask. Even if they catch us, we'll be fine. Just give it time to pass. Jeffrey's got a bag. This shit is under control. Cause he reports directly to the people running the show. Well, gee, who could that be? What a mystery. Even with the evidence, there's not a single hint.
That's Chris's music, not mine.
Mistaken all along. So I guess we'll never know just what is really going on. But before you call it anti-Semitism, try to listen and think how I said those families infiltrated religion. The head of every snake is a servant of Satanism. Shit, the Vatican been human trafficking since the beginning. But one little country has become their seat of power, where they plot on pandemics and wars and twin towers. Babylonian Talmudism has been the recipe. They've been sacrificing the fucking children for centuries. And they don't give a fuck about us. We're just goy, cattle, subhuman, only here to be destroyed and extorted and abused and ruled over with lies. But don't forget, guys, they're our greatest allies. Oh man, this song is...
And it goes on and on from there. You can go listen to it on Chris Webby's page. He also likes to incorporate in this song, I'll show it to you here. Oh, look, he's also burning ball.
The fallen angels and Nephilim. Time to rid society's closet.
So you got Chris Webby's burning ball, Mexico's burning ball, the Iranians are burning ball, I think Pakistan's burning ball, most of the Middle East is burning ball. So it kind of looks like the whole world knows. Kind of looks like the whole world is aware. Let's go back to playing some of these Lego propaganda videos. The first one was honestly, I think, my favorite, but there's a couple of other ones that are really, really good too. Here is another. Most of these, I think, I've got probably like 20 links. I'd say most of them are not Iranian propaganda, but people started making their own. The first one I showed you was Iranian propaganda. And now people are making their own versions of this propaganda. It's really good stuff. I can just sit back and relax and let these songs do the show for me now.
Yeah. Keep that same energy. You ain't nothing but a fraud. Yo, call him what he is. Yeah. Hey, loser, come closer. I'm the exposer. Billionaire, your whole empire opposed. You step down. Another liar takes the crown. The whole system is the circus. You're just a clown.
You know, while the United States government is telling the Iranians, rise up against your government, go and overthrow them. This is your only chance that you're going to get to. And the Iranians actually embrace the government and go make human chains around their power facilities and desalination plants. The irony is, as the American government tells the Iranians to do that and the Iranians rebel against it, the Iranians are telling the U.S. government, look, your own people despise you. They're not calling for revolution. They're just saying, look, your own people don't believe what you're saying. You're liars. You're corrupt. You're evil. Everybody knows it. The only people that don't recognize it are a handful of people in church and a handful of people in the government that are part of it in Israel and the United States. And at this point, you know, I'm really just for it. I want a coalition of every country. China, Japan, Germany. Let's bring Germany. Germany's already been in 2 world wars. We got to get Germany in a third one. I mean, 3 times in a row. Third time's the charm, right? And let's just fucking annihilate these people, because that is the only solution to this problem. Israel as a country has to be wiped off the face of the earth politically, economically, culturally, and that is the only way that things are going to change. And it doesn't matter if I actually think that, because that's what the world thinks, and that's what's coming next.
We call it in soul. We call it in the fire. Ready for the truth. Call it.
Cease liar. All right, let's play another one. By the way, what I just explained there is not really my opinion. It's just that's what the world thinks, and that's what's something to that effect is going to happen. This one, I believe, is Iranian propaganda. This is also one of my favorites. The draft set up on Lolita Island for Americans to come and die for Israel. This is a great one.
He's buying an island of ice, while the world is on fire. A billionaire liar, a professional prior. He tweets in the morning, NATO is useless, while leaving the youth in the street feeling rootless. Automatic drop, yeah, the art of the steal. Trading your life for a classified deal. Vietnam vibes, but the reason is trash. Protecting the files while he's burning the cash. Facts. The jungle's dead. Blood on the floor. The jungle's dead. Why are we going to war? The jungle's dead. Secrets in the file. The jungle's dead. Chilling with a smile. The jungle's dead. The jungle's dead.
You are right, Lurley. People wanted a troll, and that's what they got. Trojan horse troll.
100 strikes, 10 minutes, it's insane. 50 buildings down, washing blood in the rain. They call it strategy, I call it a joke. 100 families vanishing.
The people are equally the problem, if not more so.
Killing the innocent for a political rival. Sky News is laughing. Your own people hate you, and even the news starts to underestimate you. The Strait is a chokehold, the valves are closed. The weakness of Washington is finally exposed. $98 and the price keeps on creeping, while the mothers of the drafted are bitterly weeping. You're thirsty for helium, you're thirsty for gas, but you're stuck in the water, kicking your ass. It's the law of the jungle where the strong eat the small, but even the giant is bound to fall. Crash. Yes, I'ma warn you, the exit is gone. You're trapped in the darkness before the dawn. 1 out of 7, your own party is turning.
You know, frankly, if you're advocating for war with Iran and you're happy with war with Iran and you want your kids to be drafted, they deserve to die.
Is it the freedom that you promised the brave? Tucker was shouting, got the weed from the Zion, but you're tied to the beast and you're feeding the lion. 50 towers, 100.
God, I hate AI, and this is just so good.
You're the king of the jungle, but the trees are all bare. There's no loyalty left, and there's no one to care. The jungle's death is the heavy amount, and the blood of the children is the only count. The jungle's death, blood on the floor.
They need to make this guy taking these soldiers into the war. They need to just have him rubbing his hands together. That would be the only way this video would be better.
Killing with a smile. The jungle's death. The jungle's death. Why are we going to war? The jungle's death. Secrets in the file. The jungle's death. Killing with a smile.
Killing with a smile and fake Bible verses from Pulp Fiction. We are not a serious country. We are a joke. Here's another one. These are so good. Actually, that looks like it's the same one. I have a couple of links here that I think are identical. Oh, this is a great one about Hexeth.
Yo, Pete Hexeth. This one's especially for you. You punk-ass rapist, bitch. Straight from Iran. Your tattoo cover clown with that cafe ink on your arm. Think you a crusader? Nah, just a drunk infidel in a fake uniform. Chain to kill all Muslims. Wasted in the hotel lobby. Sexual assault settlement in Monterey. Blocked the door, took a phone, put it on quiet. Me Too was on. Are you secretary? What a joke, bro. Cheated on wives, multiple affairs, kids in the mix, family man, hell no. Handsy with women at Fox, drunk on the job, your own team say, yo, this dude toxic. Couldn't even guard Biden's inauguration, your own military said next. Book called American Crusade, dreaming holy war, but reality check. You just a failed vet, turned TV clown, slipping on your own mess. Trump picked you cause you kissed the ring, but wait, funny part ain't coming. The dude you sucking up for that secretary gig, Trump himself was Bill Clinton's top cocksucker, giving blue jobs back in the day. Real talk, you out here blowing for access, but he the original BJ queen. You thought our missiles max 2,000 kilometers? Cute, rookie mistake. We hitting the bow, worshiping Epstein Island crew, the ones who hurt the kids. Revenge for every American soul you and Trump's dirty crew oppressed and did. We taking payback for the girls, you broke the wives, you broke the Muslims you hate. Every victim screaming in the dark. Iran got you on the play. You threw everything at us, all your cards, all your might. We still operating on 10% power, laughing while you fight. We see everything, know every secret, every dirty Epstein link you hide. Where you least expected, in the shadows we ride, and no place to slide. This ain't full force, just a warm up. Persian flow with the rap. You done roasted raw. Iran sending this heat. Feel the math.
All right, so let me just explain to you what you're listening to. What you're listening to is a group of people who have an IQ that is one of the highest in the world. If we look at the IQ of Iranians, they rank equal to the Taiwanese, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Koreans, and the collective people of Hong Kong. Now, despite the fact that you're constantly told the Jews have the highest IQ in the world and Americans are the smartest, I have to scroll down through this list pretty far to find America and to find Israel on this list. Here's Israel at 98.57 average IQ as of 2025. Let me scroll back up and show you what the Iranian IQ is on average. The Iranian IQ on average is 104.8. That's why their propaganda is better than us. That's why their women are smarter than our women. That's why their men are smarter than our men. That's why, maybe not the sole reason, but probably one of the primary reasons, mixed with the fact that the Israelis have lied in the media and to our government about intelligence, about what the Iranians actually have in terms of technology and in terms of their defenses. This is why they beat the shit out of us in this so-called war. This is why we have to send ships to take the long way, because our military might and power can't defeat goat herders. We are not a real country. We are a joke. And the funny thing is, living over here in Japan, people really don't like the Chinese. The Chinese and the Japanese really, really hate each other. And yet, here's one of those things where the Chinese and the Japanese agreed, what would be the best course of action here? Why don't we just not kill Iranians and we can still get oil from them? And the Iranians said, yeah, that's great. We should do that. We'll give you some oil. The Chinese, Japanese hate each other, but they decided to just come together and talk with the Iranians, and they got oil. And it just shows you how insane these people are. Here's another one.
Hey, Orange Pig, America first. Oops. Oh boy, that was the slogan you stole. But baby's pulling strings and your vote is getting cold. We're not just fighting for Iran. Hear this clear. Your people's reached out to us. Yeah, we got the DMs here. If one nation's gonna stand against the Epstein regime's fear, it's us till the last breath. We've been doing it for years. We're standing here for everyone. Your system ever wrong. They've known all along. The enemy was always you. The real Brit war recruiting sung a patriotic song while selling their own citizens and calling it strong. Stealing from your own people, making them bleed, taking tax dollars just to fund your own greed. They waking up to the lies, the illusions of birth. You screamed America first, now you put losers first. Make Israel great again. Your government is run by pedophiles. They ordered you to die.
This is the most catchy. Your government is run by pedophiles.
They lied to you. We saw everything. If the public ever saw the files, man, the planet would shake from the level of filth and the crimes in your wake. No wonder Jeff called you the worst, you degenerate snake. You claimed you never set foot. You went 40 plus times. You sick bastard. You cooked. We stepping up to the plate. Team regime gotta fall. You fake Christian elite sacrificing the ball. Human, you talk real big for a man with tiny hands. Tiny hands, tiny things, tiny everything. We saw everything. And word got out. The smallness kinda expands. No wonder all those rage tweets, all those desperate rants. Overcompensating bully, always causing a scene. You said you love losers. Well, look at your team. Your government is run by. Your government is run by pedophiles. They ordered you to die for Israel. They ordered you to die for Israel. They lied to you.
That's my favorite hook. I've got that stuck in my head. I've had it stuck in my head all week. Your government is run by pedophiles. They ordered you to die for Israel. That's so good, isn't it? How about one more? I've got a bunch of them, but how about one more? We'll take some calls in the chat. If you want to call in, here is the link. It is free. Just turn off your background noise if you have any. The link is in the chat. Don't be afraid to call in. I will go to your call ASAP. As soon as I see it, I'll bring it up. By the way, there are some personal things happening in the chat. And people keep asking me about family-related stuff. And I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I will address it in a roundabout way. You want to know why I don't have my son with me? Because his mom is a Jew, and she is a particularly vile Jew who personifies all the stereotypes of a Jew. She stole my son, and she also stole pretty much everything from any hotel room we ever went to. That's why my son's not with me. Because she is the exact same kind of person we're talking about on this show. And she's a compulsive drinker and liar on top of that. That's why. And I don't say that sarcastically. I say that because just another experience I've had with these people. The same ones that have gotten me fired from radio, the same ones that have come after me and gotten my financial accounts removed, have gotten me banned from platforms. It's the same people every time. Every single time.
Hey, Donnie, wake up. Check the news. It's not looking good for the winner. Oops. Trapped in lies. Trapped in lies. No. Screaming victory while the ships are in ice. Lies. Whatever, trapped in lies. Wait for it to be slave with a heavy price. Press TV caught you playing hide and seek. Seek. Patterson and Murphy looking pretty weak. Are they lost? Identity stolen. We're just a merchant boat. But the IRGC caught the wolf by the 30 minutes to leave, or you're gonna sink. Your own navy running faster than a no. Trapped in lies. It's your news.
Yeah, our government has to constantly tell us how great our military is, and yet our military is running scared from goat herders and Iranians that we tell the world are stupid and have no IQs when they actually have higher IQs than we do. We're getting our ass handed to us.
With a heavy pride. Bloomberg said it oil's at 140. Sorry, CNN is crying, inflation's getting naughty. Robert Malley laughed at your talks. What the Israeli radio says, you're losing control. 0 goals achieved, that's your own army.
Have you listened to, like, I don't know, Alex Jones or anybody talking about how Trump's recovery has been undermined? You heard that? Trump's economy and his economic recovery has been undermined. Well, I mean, there was a painter who pointed this out a long time ago. What, BlackRock is benefiting from this? The Jew that runs that? Vanguard? Oh, no. Really?
Bloomberg, CNN.
There was an economic recovery and a bunch of Jews didn't want it to happen, just like they undermined the Japanese economy back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the 2 Jews that ran the Federal Central Bank. Oh, no.
Yo, Donnie, tell baby Alicia's too short. Victory, your own news says no.
How about another one? We've got a whole bunch of these. If you'd like to call in, give us a call right now. This one is about Melania Trump, I think. Give us a call and we'll put you on the air. tstradio.info, rdgable@yahoo.com. Don't be afraid to call in. I will put the link in the chat room again. There you go. Give us a call if you want to talk with us and tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah. I've never been friends with Epstein.
Remember when I said Melania was particularly disgusting, like a really repulsive and vile human being? Everybody's like, nah, man, she's so hot. Look at how hot she is. It's like, well, I mean, if you like baseball mittens, gloves, and that just look like leather face that got too much plastic surgery and was part of like a cult, then I guess if that's what gets you off, but I think she's disgusting. So, well, now everybody's kind of agreed. Why did she talk about how she had no involvement with Epstein? And she's like protesting it. Well, because she's part of it. Because of Zampoli or whatever the guy's name is that trafficked her. And by the way, Epstein fucked her. Epstein queen. Kissing on the left. Yes, Ari Lucifer. This is my bid for number 1. Fuck Dan Bilzerian.
That's why she was smiling at it. Hand on the shirt,
go.
Kissing Epstein beat while the cameras click the rest. Now she's on TV saying we were never close, but the photos got her looking like the perfect host. Epstein wasn't just a friend.
Your average Persian woman is more beautiful than Melania Trump.
Every wild party, every private flight. Now Netanyahu owns the White House day and night. Epstein queen.
It's like when they show you those giant, fat, black rappers, and they're supposed to be like really attractive, or they'll show you like the skinny bimbo bitches and be like, yeah, these are American women, these fake blonde bimbos. You just get some like random Japanese girl who blew up the internet and took all the attention away from Sydney Sweeney, who, by the way, Sydney Sweeney, you know who she's dating? You want to take a guess who she's dating?
While the blackmail ran deep, now I ran, paid the price for secrets that she keeps sacred. Epstein queen.
She is dating Scooter Braun, another Jewish elitist in New York. That's why they're throwing her tits all over the internet. But in polls all around the world, just your average random girl in some foreign country is more attractive than Sydney Sweeney is. I'm not saying she's unattractive. I'm just saying, like, they give you this fake image of what sexuality is, and they throw her like her boyfriend's literally throwing her tits in your face. Oh, she's so hot. She's so hot. I mean, like, yeah, she's definitely hotter than Melania Trump. But see, the thing is, they're giving you this false image of what sexuality is. These people are just obsessed with it. That's why all these IDF Mossad propaganda clips that you see are like fake girls that have their asses hanging out. Look at the IDF chicks are really hot, aren't they? No, they're mass murdering psychopaths, and most of them aren't real anyway. They're AI generated. Let's go back and play another one of these. If you still like to call in tonight, I know that we have more listeners tonight than we did last week. So if you'd like to call in, please do so. Tim Curley, she dates Scooter Braun. Take a look at who Scooter Braun is. Give it a look. Give it a read.
Donnie, your plastic is melting. Whoops!
This song is a play on the Jesus tarot magician image we looked at earlier.
White robe stained with no. Acting holy for the show. Healing in the glow.
You know, when I said that the Israelis have positioned the United States to ban Christianity, why do you think they're attacking Catholics? Because Catholics, Roman Empire, and the Jews have a problem with them. They still blame them for the death of Jesus, even though they hate Jesus, and they're the ones that said, put his blood on our children. That's why they're targeting the Catholics. And I'm not a fan of the Catholic Church, folks. I'm not a fan of the pedophiles. You know how many jobs I've lost because of that? At least 2. Someone asked me about that recently. Why does it rhyme about the Catholics? I did 15 years ago. Now it's just everybody knows it.
Your ratings are so low, like a squeaky radio.
As I was getting banned, I got banned from Art Bell's radio network because I refused to stop talking about Catholic pedophiles.
But your points are at 0. The silence called and stick savior.
Many Tinkle Parson. The writing is on the wall. Tiny hands, tiny hats. Chrissy.
Just a toy, what's the show?
Jez in the chat, you are correct. I believe that's about Sydney Sweeney. Yes, that's accurate.
The Pope says, confess, you little brick. No! Back to the factory for you. Disconnected.
You want to see something that's really weird? Iranian leadership went onto social media and tweeted toward the Vatican. And once again, Iranians, Persians, Muslims, Arabs, and everybody have defended Jesus Christ more than the Christians or the Jews have. Mossad Pezeshkan, His Holiness Pope Leo, the 10, 11, 16th. I condemn the insult to your excellency on behalf of the great nation of Iran and declare that the declaration of Jesus, the prophet of peace and brotherhood, is not acceptable to any free person. I wish you glory by Allah. Remember when the Catholic News Agency reported that Iranian leadership backed Jesus when he was being made fun of by a fat Jew at the Olympics? That's what she called herself. She's a fat lesbian Jew, Barbara Butch. Remember that? And the guy that ran the Olympics, he was Jewish and proud of it and said, look, I'm Jewish and I run the Olympics. And then when people pointed it out, they sued everybody who said it. Remember that? Looking this story up, it was originally the Catholic News Agency that had reported this. Muslim leaders condemn disgraceful Olympic scene. It offended us as much as it offended them. The supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, too bad he's dead, condemned the insult against Jesus Christ, noting that Jesus is a respected figure in Islam. Huh. Really? Really? Really, 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 really. It's amazing. Let's go to Brent. Brent is on the line. Brent, Where are you calling from tonight?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. I'm a big fan of Texas. How are you? What are your thoughts?
On Texas?
No, no, no. On the show, I was
Oh,
just saying that I like Texas. Spent a lot of time there.
yeah, I've spent a lot of time here too. Hey, it was a Confederate state. Uh, and it was one of the few, if not the only, that reserved the right to, um, get out of the United States to this day. They have it in their constitution that, hey, they can leave at any time and form their own republic. But it's the Lone Star State.
As long as
Right.
that's not the Lone Star of Israel, then I'm all fine with that.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, I've heard that you down there in Texas, you've got an issue where how your governor has said that it's not legal to not pay your taxes to Israel, and I believe you also have several cities that have been restricted from federal assistance if they don't sign agreements to not boycott Israel.
There's all sorts of stuff going on. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I
and
do. I do.
I'd share it with you, but I just wanted to let you know I'm really enjoying your show and that you were awfully brave to let out that personal information about your wife. And I made a little comment in the chat room that, that I'm glad you did share that, and it makes sense. And I thought that was the case all along. And that's the truth, I guess, and I don't blame you one bit. And I'm sorry that happened to you.
It's okay. I'm far over it by now, but just for the record, she was never my wife. She was lied about
Oh,
wanting to be my wife, and then I mean it's lying, cheating, stealing, etc. So it's a stereotype, but I appreciate that. You have any other thoughts on you like these Lego Iran videos?
yeah. They're funny. Yeah, they're really funny. Um,
You
and
don't strike me as a hip hop fan, and yet you still liked them.
right, right. I'm not, well, I'm not. There's, Bro Sanchez. Have you heard of him, Bro Sanchez, on uh,
No, I have not.
YouTube? Okay. Well, um, he's a black man, and he is trying to get his black people aware of what's going on in the world,
Hmm.
and he just took NASA and tore it apart, man. They just got through tearing NASA all apart. If anybody wants to check that out, Bro Sanchez at Bro Sanchez TV.
We just did a show on NASA too called "Lie Me to the Moon." It's in our archive if you are interested in that
Yeah,
subject. I don't know if you heard
you
that
know,
one.
yeah, I did. It was really good. It was really good. But and he's just comes at it from a different angle, but he's been doing it for a long time. Well, I just, you know, the only problem is I just hope that this is sincere. The Iranian government's not really involved in the total entwining of what they want to accomplish.
Hmm.
That I think we need to step back and make sure that um, that's not the case. But this would be a perfect time in history for we to stand up and propose civilizations that would have cultural boundaries and that type of thing, and have the freedoms that we deserve as the beings that we are, and to be able to have the freedoms like we thought we had, at least, and design courts and things that would bring some sanity to all this. But I'm just afraid that it might be part of the New World Order's step down process of just starving us all.
Well, whatever the New World Order is, however people interpret that, the essence of what you're getting at, that is exactly what this is. I mean, all the things that we were told are bad, like the North American Union, electric cars, and war with Iran, are suddenly justified because Trump did it or because Israel was in favor of it or something. And people have turned their attention away from what really matters. And although a lot of people might assume that means Jesus, it's not Jesus that really matters. It's the rule of law that really matters. And if we don't apply the rule of law equally to everybody, then it doesn't get applied equally to us, and we all lose our rights. That includes your right to believe in Jesus, love Jesus, have a Bible, or lose that right and go to jail because Israel said you have to. These are laws that are already being passed by the U.S. House of Representatives in terms of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. I appreciate your call. Thank you so much for calling in tonight. Any final thoughts?
Listen, have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. I wish we had a little bit more time to chat.
It's a new moon. It's a new moon. A new moon. Started today.
You enjoy it, and you enjoy it, and stay safe in Texas.
Okay, you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Brent, for the call. I really appreciate that. In the chat, someone had asked, and I put it up on the screen, they said, do Jews really believe Jesus is boiling in a vat of feces? And yes, you can read it right there on the screen. They tell you it doesn't exist, but it's right. I got it right from the William Davidson Talmud. And there's context to this, by the way. If you read, I believe the guy's name Schaeffer, he wrote Jesus in the Talmud. He didn't believe it at first either, and then he read it, and he pulled all the historical context, the meaning of the words, and found out it's a lot worse than just a couple verses. It's a lot worse than that, but you can read it on your screen right there. If you want to look it up, you could find it in my book, or you can find it online, GITTIN 57A. What is the punishment of that man? A euphemism for Jesus himself in the next world. And Jesus said to him, he's punished with boiling excrement. And Rabbi Shmuley recently tried to defend this and said it wasn't the same Jesus. I mean, there was a lot of Jesuses maybe, or Yeshua's, but I don't know how many Jesuses of Nazarene who rebelled against the Jewish leadership there were. But that's how Shmuley tried to defend that. Pretty unbelievable. Pretty unbelievable. But nevertheless, it's also par for the course, and what do you expect? That's just how it is. Alrighty, so we had someone else pop in here and they jumped off. I don't have a call screener, so you might have thought that maybe you didn't get through. I think we're pretty much out of time to do another call, but we do have just a moment here to maybe play another one of these songs. tstradio.info, rdgable@yahoo.com. Please support the show, keep us on air, subscribe to the archive, listen to the free show archive. Buy a copy of one of my books. Please support the Secret Teachings. Leave us a review on Apple. Buy me a coffee. Cash App, support us. We are truly independent among all the other noise out there. Got a short Lego video. We'll play and we'll end on this. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat room tonight. And thank you for all the support that you've already given the show. I really, really appreciate it. Let's take a listen to another one of these Lego videos.
Do you really want to live?
Or maybe this one won't work because it's a fresh page I loaded. Maybe that one won't work. So let's try another one. I've got 20 or something of them. One of them we can get to work. Here's one.
Donald, why are you digging in the Vatican? Is that an oil rig? Smell it, Francis! The holy water is turning black! It's a business miracle! BB promised me crude under the Sistine Chapel! Huge! That's a wine cellar. You're swimming in Merlot. You've lost NATO. You've lost the workers.
It's okay, Chrissy, if you want to call in. Some other people wanted to call in. Chris, if you want to call in real fast, I can take the call. Go ahead. If you do it now, please, go ahead.
A liar on a wire, baby, help, the bills are high. You betrayed the NATO, you lost the entire. Who needs allies? I'm the empire. The lion is awake and your time will expire. Game over! Politico, legitimating you insulted Mark Rutte.
He didn't like my tie. He's a loser.
Italy stood up defending their nation's honor.
No more pasta for them. I'm canceling Italy.
The working class left you only Fox News as your friend.
Old people love me.
They think I'm a gold-plated god. The Senate gave you power, but the world sees the end.
You ever watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? I am the golden god. The transaction is complete.
Put a Trump hotel where the pilgrims used to hold.
Making 6 birds down and the Triton is at the bottom.
They're just toys for the show.
I already forgot I'm the strait is a wall and the oil is a fire.
Yeah, they didn't show you those videos of American helicopters and planes obliterated in Iran. A failed invasion. And now we're saving face. Oh, we got the strait open. It's all good. Yeah, because the Iranians beat the hell out of you.
Time will expire. Game over. Joe Pence saw the play, leaving NATO for a scam.
I'm not leaving. I'm just looking for some ham.
Betraying Turkey to save the Zionist lamb.
Turkey versus Israel.
I'll sell tickets.
Very expensive.
You better get the tickets because Turkey's next.
Land is in pain.
Eat the dirt. It's organic. We have gold-plated brains.
Spain kicked you out. The world turned its back.
No more tapas for them. Spain is so mean.
The Pope said God is not with the bombs you pack. Whatever. I'll just sing some gold-plated psalm.
$98 oil. The strait is a lock. Wait, why is BB hiding? Why is he under a rock?
The strait is a wall and the oil is a fire.
I'm a high flyer.
I'm a high flyer. The Zionist king is a liar on a wire.
BB, help.
It's just so crazy that we could just avoid all this if people understood that a lion wasn't literal, that Christ is a title. Just look up the word Israel in the dictionary. It means people that struggle with God, so it means everybody. If we just understood what the definition of a word was, we could avoid all this, but
was it worth it, Donnie?
as long as people are going to condemn Muslims and Arabs, I'm going to condemn Jews as a matter of free speech because I have a right and a responsibility to do it before it becomes illegal. And that's why I do it, because it's going to become illegal if more people don't start doing it and exercising their rights. That's the bottom line. You better do it now. You better exercise those rights now, because in the foreseeable future, you won't be able to. They're going to put an end to it. It's already being discussed by Congress. And you'll learn that just like what's happening today, where an opinion is considered violence, you'll learn the same standard is applied throughout human history, where the Holocaust was actually just people that disagreed with Jews. That's pretty much what it was. That's how they define it anyway. It's in the Holocaust Encyclopedia. Like, people that disagreed with Jews were committing genocide. Not murdering them, just disagreeing with them. And they actually classify that as proof of death. We looked at this on a recent show. If you were personally inconvenienced by Nazism, that was something that, without any evidence, you could just write that down on a piece of paper, send it to the Yad Vashem group, and then you get included in the 6 million. It's as simple as that. You were inconvenienced? You didn't like Hitler? Well, that means you're a victim. Same thing's happening in the United States today. That's why everything's Nazi, everything's Hitler. It's really annoying. And in the middle of all this, we just forget about the rule of law. We forget about how you have a right to speak freely. You have a right to practice the religion of your choice, and a right to not be forced to practice a religion or be stopped from practicing a religion. You have a right to protest. You have a right to repress. You have a right to address or approach the government and tell the government, I don't agree. You can grieve to the government. But with these new laws and these new definitions, you won't be able to do any of that. So you might want to do something about this now, or as Alex in the chat said, you're not going to have any rights at all. At all. Might want to stand up and say something. Anybody? Anybody willing to say something, do something about it? I'll wait. I don't think we really have any more time, but, I'll wait. We are crossing one Rubicon after another. And it's just going to get worse. The worse it gets, the more they'll tell you it's getting better. It's not. It's getting worse. All right. Next week, you'll be able to call in again to the show. We'll take calls earlier next week. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up the Billy Carson show because he's threatening to sue me for having access to the Florida business website, like the main state website that shows you public information. I'm going to post that in the archive so you can listen to all 4 hours of that again, not have to go digging through it. It was a while ago we did that show. I believe it's also on YouTube. You can watch it. You can actually see the documents. And I'll probably do another show about that sometime next week because Billy Carson's such a kind, gentle black man that he would threaten lawsuits over a public information. So we'll probably cover that again next week. And I said this last week, but I really, really mean it. I would like to not have to do these shows every week, but just so much stuff keeps happening. Our audience keeps like doubling and tripling. So people keep coming here and looking for, wait, is this the guy that said all this stuff like 15 years ago? Yeah. Well, one of the people, not the only one, but one of the people. So sometimes for a new audience, like I do want to talk about other stuff, but this is kind of like the proverbial bread and butter. So I'm kind of compelled to talk about it as well. Protocols of Goyim is my new book. Get a copy of it if you want more information about all of this, like hard factual details written down you can hold in your hand, documents in that book as well. It's a big book physically. It's thick. It's large. tstradio.info. Stay safe, stay informed, stay healthy. And I will talk to you on the next broadcast. Everybody in the chat room, I really, really appreciate you showing up tonight. Everybody listening to this show, however you're listening, ads or ad-free, I really, really, really appreciate you supporting this show. Cat in the chat said, Archaics called out Billy Carson. Yes, and listen, if Archaics called out Billy Carson, I mean, Archaics is full of shit. So you really got to be full of shit to call out Billy Carson. Like Billy Carson's really got to be full of shit. If Archaics is saying, man, this guy's crazy, then yeah, he's definitely crazy because the Archaics guy is also nuts too. Pretty sure he raped a 13-year-old, sexually assault a 13-year-old. But if I talk like a voice like this, it's all okay. Oh yeah, I raped a girl, but it's okay because I got these secret ancient maps. Fuck you, Archaics. Unbelievable that people listen to that and think, yeah, this is real. I can trust this guy. We need to teach discernment in school. We really do. We need to really redo the whole system. What's a metaphor? What is discernment? What's critical thinking? All right. Have a great night. I really appreciate you tuning in tonight. Let me get the music queued up here, and we will get off the air. stradio.info, rdgable@yahoo.com. Have a great night. White Bat Audio is the music. You can find them on YouTube.